St. Pete Beach. Today is Tuesday, December 16th, 2025. It is 6 p.m. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, if you're pleased, do a roll call.
Vice Mayor Marriott.
Here.
Commissioner Robinson.
Here.
Commissioner Ruznicki.
Here.
Commissioner Maldonado.
Here.
And Mayor Petrilla.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the agenda as proposed?
Mayor and Commission, I respectfully request that we continue item 5B to the regularly scheduled meeting on January 13th, 2026 at 6 p.m. as we are awaiting further feedback from the state regarding this ordinance. I also request that item 6D as well be continued to January 13th, 2026, as we are still working with the claimant on the final settlement agreement. I have.
Got 2 items to add to discussions.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to add Dog Beach to the discussions, as well as the CRD EA in Height in Paso Robles.
I'm sorry, the what?
The CRD,
Okay.
8th Avenue and Height.
I'd like to add a brief comments on commission meetings, the dates.
Okay. Any other items?
Mayor, with regard to the 5G ordinance, that would be 5E. A statutory notice to the Department of State had to go out prior to the effective date of the ordinance, and it requires 30 days from the date that the Department of State published the notice of the proposed ordinance. That was published, but it's not 30 days since the date it was published. So the 30-day effective date would be delayed until the next meeting date. So if you'd like to continue that to January 13th, that would give you more time. If you adopt it now, it cannot go into effect until the 30 days would expire, which would be, I believe, January 10th anyway.
Is your recommendation that we move it to January 13th?
Yes.
Okay.
That will also give us time to put further supporting documentation into the agenda packet, which could be helpful in defending the ordinance.
And I would like to add one item for permits.
Mayor, was there consensus to continue the?
I'm sorry. Well, I guess when we vote, we will find out.
Is that where the?
The recommendation from the city attorney was that we continue it to January 13th, and then
Okay.
is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I make them.
Add something
I did.
I just said permits.
Yep.
Those January 13 dates would be at 6 p.m.
Correct. That's the regular scheduled first meeting in 2026.
I motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I second.
City Clerk, if you please do a roll call.
Vice Mayor Marriott.
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson.
Yes.
Commissioner Ruznicki.
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado.
Yes.
Mayor Petrilla.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. All right, the first item that we have is a proclamation. So this is a proclamation celebrating a very special delivery. Whereas on August 21st, 2025, firefighter paramedic Ty Ulevich, firefighter paramedic Max Lichtig, and firefighter paramedic Scott Burford of the St. Pete Beach Fire Department demonstrated exceptional professionalism, skill, and composure during the emergency medical incident involving a precipitous field delivery. And whereas upon arrival, firefighter paramedic Ulevich and firefighter paramedic Lichtig and firefighter paramedic Burford quickly assessed the situation and recognized the immediate need for advancing obstetrics intervention, and whereas their swift actions, teamwork, and compassionate care directly contributed to the safe delivery and well-being of both mother and newborn. And whereas Pinellas County EMS Medical Director and the Director of EMS and Fire Administration formally commended both members for their exemplary performance and dedication to patient care. And whereas the life-saving efforts of firefighter paramedic Ulevich and firefighter paramedic Burford reflect great credit upon themselves, the St. Pete Beach Fire Department, and the Pinellas County EMS system. And now therefore be it resolved that firefighter paramedic Shtai Ulevich, firefighter paramedic Max Lichtig, and firefighter paramedic Scott Burford are hereby recognized and commended for their outstanding service, clinical excellence, and unwavering commitment to public safety. Their actions are a true testament to their professionalism and dedication of our emergency services. Fire Chief.
Mayor, I'd like to add that tonight we have the privilege of recognizing these three members, and their actions go to the heart of what we perform as professional firefighters every day. Their actions, their teamwork, their communication is what provided that positive outcome for mother and baby. And on the behalf of the department, of the city, and the citizens, I'd like to thank Ty, Scott, and Max for their actions that day. So they were also honored by the county EMS coordinator as well. So I'd like to present each of them with these. Scott. And for your uniform.
Oh, thank you.
Ty. Would you like to come down for a photo?
Yes, sir.
And Max. Thank you. Thank you for. Yeah, let's come over to the middle. Everyone up, guys.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Well done.
All right, the next item is 2B, a presentation on the Mary Pier Bait Shack.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. For the record, Camden Mills, Public Services Director. I appreciate your time this evening to give you an update on where we stand currently with the Mary Pier Bait Shack, and staff seeks your direction on next steps moving forward. So back in April of this year, we presented the status of where we stood with this bait shack at that time, and we received the direction to provide an updated appraisal as well as solicit competitive bids to evaluate whether rebuilds with code compliance to current standards would be feasible or not. As you may recall, this structure is not designated historic and is not eligible to be designated historic. And the structure was also determined to be substantially damaged by the city's building official as well as FEMA's inspectors. So since we last presented this to you guys, we did receive an updated appraisal for the structure. The new appraised value for the building itself is at $210,000. We also did solicit competitive bids for contractors to give us the price so we could evaluate what the cost would be to rebuild it up to the not only the building code but also to FEMA's code and standards. The lowest bid that met those requirements was at $210,682. And I would like to point out that fee did not include any permitting or the engineering plans that would be associated with those permit documents. So we have factored in a little extra for that estimate as well that you'll see later. Our insurance valuation, previously back in April, that was at $62,000. Since then, that has increased to $82,000. So the amount of after cash value that our insurance has presented to us has increased since April. And in the demolition cost, previously we had solicited competitive bids for the demo of the structure, and the low bid for that demolition still stands at just under $66,000. I would like to note that the project with FEMA is still currently under review, but I would note that any insurance funding that we received for this project would be deducted from FEMA's public assistance. So at this time, we would not anticipate any additional FEMA funding beyond what insurance was able to provide. So as we are considering rebuilding this structure, a few important points to consider is first the 50% FEMA evaluation. Based on the numbers I showed on the previous slide, this structure was determined to be substantially damaged and therefore would have to be brought up with the current code elevations. This structure is in the high-risk coastal flood area, or the VE flood zone. And because of that, with the 50% rule in that coastal area, flood proofing would be required. So we don't necessarily have to elevate the structure to the base flood elevation. An alternative, because this is a commercial structure, is that we could either wet or dry flood proof it. And then next steps moving forward, if we were to continue with a rebuild, is the permitting that we would have to go through in order to make this project happen. First of which is with the city's building permit, but we'd also coordinate with the state, Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and Pinellas County due to its location over the waterway. And I apologize here, this appears to be an outdated slide. But staff here, we seek direction from the City Commission on next steps moving forward. One option would be to demo the building and not rebuild it. Another option would be perform selective demolition and rebuild the structure to current codes and standards. Just to give you a summary on those costs, as I mentioned, the demo cost is just under $66,000. Our rebuild estimate is around $250,000, so that factors in that 210 that I presented earlier, with some fluff added in there for permitting and permitting plan documents. And the current budget that the city has right now is $144,650. That $144,000 is a combination of two different funding sources. First of which is that insurance after cash value that I mentioned at $82,000, but also the $65,529 that the city currently has budgeted in our fiscal year 26 capital improvement program. So if we did want to move forward with a rebuild, we do predict that there would be a little bit of funding gap that we would have to address. But ultimately, we'd like to seek your direction on whether you'd like us to pursue the rebuild further, or if you would prefer that we were to demo the structure. And it is important to note that a decision is needed on this structure in order for the city to renew our submerged land lease for that pier itself. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson?
Can it be done less than the 210 rebuild? I mean, things like you see now, garage doors, open air type of thing, as a rebuild to keep costs down.
That's possible. When we did solicit, the bids, that was the best price that we received. I believe the design for that structure included where it would be flood-proof in the sense where if water were to come into the building, it would be able to flow out. So it's essentially your walls and your flooring would be waterproof and would have some sort of vent system in it to allow that to be compliant.
So was the quote then as it, a rebuild as is, as it was?
No,
or
it
is
was a rebuild
just-
to codes and standards.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Maldonado?
Thank you. So I just want to clarify, and I want you to state this as well so that we all understand and are on the same understanding for contextual discussions here. So if we demolish it, we cannot rebuild anything there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So the only option really is to rebuild, maybe as Commissioner Robinson said, scale back to a bare basic minimum structure. It's a bait shack, right? And possibly maybe one bathroom. So again, going back to her question, the statement of work was to rebuild this. Was it as is?
It was not an as-is rebuild. No, it was to rebuild it within the same footprint, same square footage, but it had some additional components so it would comply with that flood-proofing requirement.
Yeah, I mean, I do see that, we've got about $106,000 funding gap here, and there certainly is, I believe, to the commission's standing. We can work with that a little bit and move things around, in terms of wants versus needs, but I would also like to see that shaven down as much as possible. We're not asking for a state-of-the-art structure or building. We're just asking for a bait shack, that can service both our residents and our tourists who rely on that heavily within our community.
Understood.
Commissioner Robinson?
And of course, I'm just confirming that once you get the initial build done within the 50% FEMA, if we wanted to do any improvements, if we did a bare minimum, we could do that under an SI situation, correct? Substantial improvement or an improvement.
It would, yes.
Fall underneath that, just as every home out here does.
Yep.
Correct? Okay.
Just for clarification, this is a commercial building.
Okay, so for
So
commercial?
The only standards, this different standards from residential are we have to basically harden it to weather the storm, but it doesn't follow the same rules as residential.
What about improvements? How does it follow for improvements then, since I don't have?
As long as it's flood-proofed and meets the standards of that flood zone, from a commercial perspective, you're fine.
Okay.
So it's a little less restrictive, actually, than residential.
So you go by the FEMA 50 for substantial damage, and then you still have some leeway
And
later
we
on?
see if we have to harden,
Right.
because if it was less, we could just go in and maybe fix the walls or the floor if it had been less. But because it wasn't, now they're saying it has to meet these higher
Okay.
standards of flood proofing, essentially, or weather proofing.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Wet proofing.
Wet proofing, yes, that's better.
Commissioner Resnicki?
Is the current submerged leased land being paid right now? Is it current, or has it expired already?
The current land lease has expired.
So it's already expired?
It is already expired, yes.
Okay, so and how long do we have to pay it, to not lose it? And is it important, like, if you do not have it?
It is important in order to maintain that pier structure, and also so the city is able to lease that pier structure.
So if we're not paying it and it's expired, I'm a little confused. Do we have a time, like, are they saying, hey, you're under penalty, you haven't paid, you've got up to this date to pay this?
DEP will let us renew because of the executive orders and the
Okay.
DEP orders and the hurricane issues, so we can.
So we have an
be
extension,
able
per
to-
se?
Yeah, to be able to renew that.
Okay.
And of course, you can have a concession in there. There's the lease he's talking about.
Okay. If we were to demo the building now, how much time do we have? Because, listening to like Commissioner Robinson's point and Commissioner Maldonado, if we were going to do something less than what is there, let's just say, but if we demo it, it triggers time, doesn't it? Because you're saying, what I heard from the comment was that if we demo it, we can't build, but how long do we have to
These
build?
things are no longer allowed under the DEP rules, so if we demo it, you would likely not get a permit to put a bait shack over water.
So we would leave it there, not demo it until we know what we can do? Is that what we have to do? Okay, and is there a concern, like an insurance concern? You said insurance is going up. Does it continue to go up because is it an issue? Is it a safety issue to leave it there until we decide?
It could pose a safety, given the condition of the structure now. As we get into hurricane season, I think that's something that's important to consider.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Robinson?
What condition is the rest of the dock in?
The rest of the dock was in a good condition.
Is in good condition, so we're strictly only talking, just want to make sure. And with the ACV, did that include the dock structure, or is that separate for just the building? And would an ACV actually include a dock structure?
They're separated. Those were separated. So that ACV is just for the building itself.
Okay. And the land lease is for the dock and everything, or just that building?
Everything that's over the water. Yep.
Okay, so that would include the docks as well. So this is kind of inclusive of that. Okay, just want to make clear on that.
Thank you, Camden. So we previously had a commercial lease on this property, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Do we know what the amount is or what we anticipate?
I do not. Do you know that, City Attorney?
If I misspeak, I'm going to ask the ACM to come up here. My understanding is, right now, we have a current lease in place for $4,500 a month. It will expire in February. They have an ability to extend it for 5 years if the city so negotiates that extension. And we are in the midst of negotiations with them due to the status of the pier and post-hurricane damage to the impact to their business.
Okay. And do we have a rough idea of what our monthly or annual carry cost is for this property?
No.
The DEP cost for permitting?
I don't have that on top of my head.
I'm saying our annual cost, taxes, insurance.
Oh, we wouldn't, I would need to get that to you.
Okay. So if we look at it, though, we have, so an out-of-pocket cost with permits, Camden, if I'm looking at your numbers correctly, is about $144,000.
The $144,000 is what the city has currently in our budget right now that we could spend on this.
Okay, so you mentioned it was $250 minus the $85 or so that we received from FEMA for insurance.
Yes, and also we have about $65,529 in our CIP.
Okay.
Yep.
So if we assume, I mean, $1,000 would be a lot, but if we assume $1,000 a month for taxes and insurance and other miscellaneous carrying cost, that leaves the city with a net of $3,500, which we would recoup in roughly 2 years. So if we put out the money for it now, we'd actually cover the entire cost within roughly 3 years. The cost that's not covered by insurance and so on. I'm just looking in terms of the comments that we've received from the community. Commissioner Maldonado, you can probably speak to that more than many of us, but I know I've certainly received a fair amount of communication, spoken with a lot of residents who would prefer, if at all possible, to save this landmark in Paso Grow. And so I think if we have a way to pay for it and have it financially viable within a very short amount of time, I think we should do what we can to save this property.
Yeah, I would add that at several meetings and through several discussions, even beyond my district, that I have had no opposition to saving what we can within reason, you know, and I do think that this is, as a mayor dissected just in simple math, it's an investment for our community. This is something that's not only going to return pennies and dollars to us annually, this is something that brings our community together. You know, it is a focal point, families gather there. Captain John is here, he probably will speak later about what it means to his family. The Hubbards have had history there in the past. I mean, this is, although it's not designated as a historic building, it certainly contributes, and it will eventually become, in my hopes, a contributing structure for Paso Grill and for our community. Thank you.
Commissioner Marriott?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is an important building. I think it's important to the community and a little bit iconic for Paso Grill to have the Mary Pier Bait Shack. And as you pointed out, Mayor, I think that it's an investment that will recoup in a relatively short amount of time. And so I think this one's a pretty easy decision to find the money now to rebuild it.
Thank you. Thank you, Camden.
Thank you.
City Clerk, do we have any audience comments?
Yes. Aaron Hollenbach.
Hello, Aaron Hollenbach. I've basically grew up in Paso Grow. My family came down there in 1978 and spearheaded the effort to save that pier back when it was slated for demolition. And so here we are again, and I really hope that we can save it again. It's been a part of Paso Grow since I've been down there, and certainly beyond that. And I really hope we can save it. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Carl Hollenbach.
Good evening. If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Hi. Carl Hollenbach, 2541 East Vina Del Mar. Have any of you been down to the pier and actually seen the building? Seen the damage? You've all been down there to see the damage? No. Well, really isn't a lot of damage done to the building. We're talking about floors that popped up. The structure is sound. I think that the figures that I know, you know, when you go and get a contractor to come in and put a bid on something, if it's for a municipality, they're going to kick it up about 30%. So right there, you know, I think you've had some offers to rebuild the place. And like for myself, when I got here to Paso Grill, that building was condemned by the city. And they had red tape around it. And I went before the commission and asked if I could rebuild the pier myself. And they gave me the approval. They just said, yeah, go ahead if you think you can do it. And I went around the neighborhood, all the businesses, and they all donated money. And we got the pier, and we were talking about pilings back then, and had the pilings replaced. And then from there, we also sold planks on the pier and redid the whole deck. and basically rebuilt the whole pier. And one thing I think everyone should know is that pier was the start of St. Pete Beach. Because before they had bridges, they had a boat that came in, a ferry boat that came in, and it came to that pier. And I think it's real important to the history of this city that it be restored and put back in operation. And also, the people that have businesses on that pier that you collect the rent from, they're not doing any business. So, you know, that's just like myself and a lot of other businesses that were affected by the flood. They got no income coming in, you know. So, and one other thing I'd like to say, back when I did that pier, had that refinished, the commissioners and the mayor all, it's in the minutes, said that they were going to set up a separate account so that money that was received from rent would be put into a special account so that if this happened again, they would have the money to restore it. And that's never been done. And I think that instead of spending the money on insurance, just self-insure, take that money that you get from the rent, put it in an account for the pier, and the next time something like this happens, you'll have the money. You won't have to rely on an insurance company, and FEMA especially. They give you nothing. I've done with FEMA, and as far as I'm concerned, like the Seahorse, I'm self-insured. I stopped dealing with FEMA and getting the insurance, flood insurance, about 20 years ago.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It sounds like everybody's on the right track, and I'd look forward to seeing it being rebuilt.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bill Lowry.
Hi, Bill Lowry, 2405 Pascal Way.
Thank you, sir.
Besides what Mr. Hollenbeck said about the history of this, that's so important, but one of the things I think we need to figure out is what's code required and what FEMA's required is able to pull the bid package on this. And there's a number of items that I think if the city actually got with the leaseholder, they could figure out, do we really need these things? For example, in the bid, it says we're supposed to install indoor-outdoor carpet over subflooring. I can't imagine that's a code requirement. In a bait house, you're dropping guts on a carpet. They don't even want carpet in there, I'm just saying, okay? Replace the flooring with a 3/4-inch subfloor. Why? Why can't we just have planking so when the water comes in, the water goes out? Repair and inspect, cover outside bait tank and icebox area with new framing and roofing. They've already put stuff on the pier. You could use an umbrella if you need. You don't have to build hard construction like that. Replace 2 interior bathrooms. How about just one? What are we going to save there? In fact, I know that John's going to speak up here in a moment, but he had told me that they were only using one bathroom anyway. The other one they were using for storage. But is that a code requirement? Is that a FEMA requirement? We got to figure this stuff out. Hurricane impact windows, I don't know if that's a requirement or not. How about open air? The wind blows in and the wind blows out. It doesn't knock anything over. Or if it does knock it over, it's just a bait house, and it didn't cost that much money to do this to start with. We just went through a 100-year storm, hopefully, and it's still sitting there in good shape. Repair, replace the roof soffit. Is that cosmetic, or is that something that's truly required? I think we just need to go back to the drawing board and see and sit with a person that actually is going to use it and make a decision of what we really need to do. Because I think there's also a requirement for a 5-year warranty. Is that something the city requires? Is that something that's mandatory? Because I'm quite sure a lot of contractors, when they see a building on a dock like that, they don't really want to extend a 5-year warranty on something like that. And so I think we just need to kind of go primitive in this fashion. Again, it's just a bait house, but it's an iconic thing that needs to be there. And one thing I think we could clarify, we talked about what it's going to cost to rebuild it. I think we're probably limited to the $105,000. So the $250,000 really isn't a number we can go after. And I think in the future, when we do some of these bid packages, maybe not in this particular case, I don't know, we should start off by saying, this is the amount of money we essentially have. What can you do for us, as opposed to just make it open, and then we get these situations where it's just doomed to fail. So I thank you all for your attention, and I agree you're moving in the right track. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
John Kavanaugh.
Good evening. If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Kavanaugh, the current leaseholder of the Mary Pier. I live at 4618 Helena Street in St. Petersburg. My family does live in Pass Grill. It's been a great blessing. Taking over, it was horrible circumstances. Captain Randy was a good friend of mine. And taking over the Mary Pier and the Miss Pass Grill fishing boat and captaining it is the greatest blessing my family could have gotten. We love the Mary Pier. What everybody's saying, honestly, when I looked at the estimate that was given, I was mind blown. The structure is in good shape. We need walls and floors. We need one bathroom. I would love to sit down with everybody and really take the time to discuss what we need versus what's getting fluffed into it, because there's not much that we need. The docks are running great. I mean, we do need the store back. It's 80% of our income down at the pier. It's hurting us. But we're working. And we love the pier. We need it back. The town loves it. And we're excited and anxious to get it back up and running. But I know it's been a daunting experience. You guys have been getting the beach going. It's have to have been horrible. We are anxious to get the store back. We do not want to demolish it. We need that store. I work there. Captain Joe and Colleen work there. Other people work there. And everybody wants to come back and work at the store. The town loves it. And I really, $210,000, I find it funny that it was the cost of the structure, right? I mean, let's be serious. It's not $210,000. I think if we all sit down and really look at it and talk to some other contractors, we can whittle this down and really get this worked out within the budget. And everybody's been so helpful, and the town has been so great coming in. It's been kind of a whirlwind and a little bit of catching up. But you guys have been so great, but we want to get this bait shop back up and running as fast as possible. We're excited to do it, and we miss it. But it's not $210,000, okay? I don't know what permitting costs are and stuff like that. We need walls and floors. We need one bathroom, and we can get this. My bait tanks are on the dock now. I just got my engineer report in for that. We're good to go, and we don't need a lot of stuff that's in there. But thank you so much. I just wanted to introduce myself, and it is I think it's $4,600 a month, by the way. And we're all working. So, you know, let's get our pier back up and running, and if we can all just sit down and discuss it. And Mr. Maldonado's been great. He's always there if I have a question. But I think if we sit down, we can really button this thing up and whittle this number down and get this bait shop back up and running. So I just want to say thank you so much. And I hope to talk to everyone soon. And we're really excited to get back going. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Amy Lowry.
Good evening. If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Amy Lowry, 102 19th Avenue, St. Pete Beach. Business owner on 8th Avenue. Can't tell you how important it is to get that pier up and running to everybody on the street. As one little business starts to waver, things start to teeter, domino effect takes over. We have a lot of tourists in town. As a matter of fact, today I saw families fishing off the pier. It's such an important part of our community down there. And I do agree with everyone. It could be much more primitive than it is. It just needs to function. And so I hope we're moving in the right direction and appreciate the attention to it.
Thank you.
That is the end of comments for the Mary Pier.
Thank you. Commissioners, any further discussion? Is there a motion?
Yeah, I would make the motion to approve the rebuilding of the Mary Pier Bait Shack with a revision to look at scaling down what has been presently presented to the commission and to try to maintain whatever we can from that structure.
Second.
Technically, we don't have a motion. We don't need a motion or anything, but I think it's good to have it for the record anyway.
Good to have a motion so we have
course.
direction.
City Clerk, if you'll please do a roll call.
Commissioner Robinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosnicki,
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott,
Yes.
and Mayor Petrilla.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, next we have 2C, the house relocation to Paso Grill Park.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. I actually will be giving this presentation tonight, and I have a whole team of staff in the front row here who will be available to answer any technical questions. This was quite a collaboration to research and bring forward to you what your options are for this proposed project. If I could have my slide deck, please. Next slide. Okay, so we wanted to do a little level setting on sort of the assumptions of facts that staff worked with is what do we know right now. We were told that a homeowner was willing to donate a wood-framed house that was built in approximately 1925. While the home is not currently designated historical, it is considered a contributing structure. And between insurance and our CIP plan that's been approved by the city in the 2026 budget, we have $177,000 earmarked towards the rebuilding of the shuffleboard area. The city has received demolition quotes for $8,000. That still is valid. And we also went out to bid for this structure, and a rebuild quote for a like structure was around $193,000. We have a written quote from a community member who was also researching the relocation of this house for about $162,000 that included relocation and building the foundation for residential use. It was not inclusive of all expenses, which I'll cover later in the presentation. And the city has also received an insurance quote of approximately $12,000 if we were to insure a new structure. However, if it's designated historical, that just automatically increases the premium. So this is just an estimate, but to give you sort of a baseline. And we started some outreach with the Shuffleboard Club before the house donation had come forward. And their initial ask was a place to store equipment and a restroom if it was possible. Next slide. So to balance out what we don't know, if we were to move to a temporary location, we don't know what that entails because we don't have a temporary location that we understand where we would be moving it to. So whether or not we would have to acquire the property, whether we would have to rent, and again, the ability to insure a house in transit is not insurable. So we would have to work out details if we were storing it, whether or not it would even be insurable. We don't know the source of a funding shortfall. We do know this project is more than $177,000. We also are not clear on the level of community support. We have not conducted any formal outreach, just have received individual and some collective feedback, but nothing formal from the city. And because of that, we don't know the intended final use of the structure. So we do look for communities to come together and give us that feedback so that we deliver the right end product. We also don't know the current condition of a 100-year-old structure. While we know it is beautifully renovated, we've seen the pictures. I wish my house looked like that right now. You know, it could possibly have the various issues we all deal with when we go to buy a new home or end up with that final inspection and find out what are all the hidden costs that we didn't know about. And then we would also need to do some ongoing operations and maintenance costs once we know use and location. Next slide. So this is just to give you a brief site overview. You can see on the left-hand side, the rectangle picture is showing you essentially where the house would be moved from and to. And then the top left-hand picture is the front-facing side of the home at 103 24th Avenue. Is about a little over 1,400 square feet, and it's a 40 by 40 foundational size. Again, constructed in 1925. You can see here the shuffleboard building is still there. We have not gone through demolition yet. It was 430 square feet, and our overall dimensions were 33 by 13. Next slide. Some additional considerations that staff has been looking at is we drove the actual potential route to relocate, and we do believe if that route was taken, we have a little over a dozen utilities and signs to move and then replace to get the dimensions of that house moved in to the new location at the park. Next slide. This is just to give, again, some level setting on what's the current condition of the park. So you can see here, this 13 by 30 house. We have several trees we have to consider, whether we remove them, move them, whether it can fit within that footprint. We have not, again, demolition the property yet, but this was just to give you sort of a current condition of what the park looks like as we sit here today. Next slide. Also, just to give some perspective on what it looked like inside before. So we had about 430 square feet. It was an open air space. So we essentially had a bathroom and a little meeting area that was used for storage. There was some, community gathering there, but it was a very simple, tiny structure. Next slide. And then the new house, these are pictures of the rear, the side. One of the things we would want to do with the community is the placement in the park, because right now we don't really have a structure that has a front and a back and a side. This is a house with a backyard. And so where exactly would we want to put it on the park? Where would be the receiving side of the building? And again, this is a 2-bedroom home. And so we have an open air area here with a kitchen and family room, and then some smaller bedrooms and bathrooms. So really figuring out what the use would be and how much interior changes the community would want for a proper community space. Next slide. So what I asked the team to do was tell me what we need to do to make this happen. So actions before relocation, and these are all referencing our current city, ordinances and guidance, and so we would need to work through the Historic Preservation Board to get a local historic designation and a certificate of appropriateness for issuance of a moving permit. So that would happen with the Historic Preservation Board authority. On the building side, we would need to complete an inspection by an engineer to assess the structure's current condition, to evaluate the existing systems, as well as determine the feasibility of relocation of the building. We would need surveying and construction layout, and then we have demolition and utility disconnects that we would need to go through, similar to what our current residents are doing. If they're demoing, we still have to do the same disconnects when we're moving a house. Next slide. We also need building permits. So we would need a relocation building permit, and we would need to know the temporary placement of the structure. So secure, if necessary. So if it's not going to the original site, if we move it to a temporary site, we actually have to figure out how we're going to secure it because it probably wouldn't be completely moved and finalized through the next hurricane season. So we would be looking at safety concerns, as well as the permanent placement of the structure. There would need to be a building permit application, so we would need a complete plan set. You can see here, including all of the mechanical, plumbing, and pre-construction elevation certificate showing the elevation of the structure. We also, because it's a commercial structure with access for the public, we would need to look at our accessibility ADA improvements as per the Florida Building Code. And if there needs to be more than 20% of total improvement or repairs on the value of that building, it triggers ADA. So it's things like accessibility to bathrooms, ramps into the building, et cetera, as well as site work to get the site ready for the home. Next slide. So we actually were lucky enough to have Camden Mills here, who was the city engineer who led the movement of a Sarasota historical structure. So he has taken one of these projects from start to finish. So there is nothing like having someone on staff that's actually done this. This was just an example because we didn't have the time to get here and tell you everything exactly what it would cost. But in 2022, Sarasota did have a similar donated situation. And the timeline it took the city to complete this project was 2 years of planning and 1 year of construction at a total cost of $425,000. Next slide. And this is just a breakup. You can see again, they had some donated services. The house was donated, but with all of those donations, they still had quite a bit of expense trying to meet all of the current building code and ADA requirements that come along with moving a home and turning it into a commercial use. Next slide. So again, this is an estimate, but we wanted to show you, we took into account all of the steps that would need to happen, and could we do it quicker than Sarasota? So they tried to knock it down to 2 years for planning and movement, so that would be 1 year faster. And you can see, in today's we're approaching $2026. It's going to cost more than $450,000. We've got increased construction costs, and again, we do are required on construction to comply with bidding processes, et cetera, to remain fair and compliant with the Florida statute. So we did estimate around $650,000 plus staff time to have this happen. Next slide. So in summary, I wanted them to paint the best case scenario for you. We thought we could move the house from the current property to the park with all the site prep within 14 months. And then it would take us another 10 months to get it ready for public use. Estimated about $475,000 delta to fund the project. And there are many variables of a project of this nature. So I do want to say these were a lot of estimates with staff trying to draw from experience, from what we know. And then we just need to be aware the significant utilities and obstacles required to safely move it have not been included in that price. Next slide. That's the path forward. So we are seeking commission direction on next steps moving forward, and wanted your direction on what you would like us to do next. And I do have my trustee team up here of experts who have spent all the time putting this presentation together, so I do want to give them the credit.
Thank you, City Manager. Commissioner Maldonado.
So I'd like to start with just the first line. You say that it's going to take 14 months to execute the move of this structure. In that, that would break my pledge to the owners, the Pezas, that we would not do anything to impact their new rebuild. And then I'll go back to the mayor's question initially about community outreach. It started pretty strong. I'll tell you that, people were very passionate about the story and this wonderful connection to the shuffleboard. But as time went on and as fiscal realities started to set in, we quickly realized that this is something that we're going to have to reconsider and learn from. Lots of lessons learned here. You know, I think that unfortunately time was the biggest impediment, and then looking at the cost. And we can argue, you know, we can go back and forth and look at discussions and kind of like we did with Mary Pierce, scale things down and try to make things work. But we don't have the comfort of time to do that right now. And I don't know, is Charles Jordan here today? Charles is here. So Charles also prepared and did a lot of stuff behind the scenes. So he may have a different picture of these things that were presented by the staff. And I would eventually, at some point, like to go back and put together lessons learned from this in the event that something else comes up. You know, we really have to have a process, you know, and even though Camden, you've been through this, I think that it's apples and oranges. You know, the move in Sarasota may have been something very unique, as this case is as well, but we would have to look at each of those individually and just show that example was startling. You know, the $425,000, I can't stomach that, and I can't justify that. So I just wanted to lean forward and tell the commission, my fellow commissioners here, that we started strong, but the reality is that this is not something that we can get behind as a district. Thank you.
Commissioner Woznicki.
I just want to say I appreciate your summary. I think it summarizes a lot that mentally, myself, I had without doing probably the type of community outreach you've had at District 4. I did go out and I met with Mr. Lowry, and I did receive emails. There was some support, and then I think the same kind of thing. Slowly, I got other emails that were, but wait a minute, how much is this going to cost? And is this a priority currently right now for the city? So a lot of questions came up on that. A question to the staff would be, if we did do some type of scaling back to rebuild the shuffleboard, whether it's to what currently how it looks or maybe something else that provides the shelter, the restroom that the shuffleboard club was seeking, if there is extra, I hate to say extra money because we seem to always be short of money, but I think you said there was 177 toward the shuffleboard. But if some of that money wasn't used because we scaled back on this site, can it be moved to the Mary Pier to be used for repairing or where the shortfall is, let's just say, at the Mary Pier?
Yeah, so the original funding from both of the shuffleboard project is a combination of general fund, which you have all authority to spend pretty much anywhere in the city, and the insurance, which also you are not obligated to spend on that project. So you can, the only process that I would need, because it is allocated in the budget, is I would bring it back to you for a reallocation.
Okay, thank you.
I just had one question on the timeline. So when you say 14 months, there was a discussion about moving this house to a temporary location. If we were to move it to a temporary location, what does that timeline look like?
The 14 months that staff estimated was to actually move it to the final site.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Camden, do you know if we discussed a shorter timeline to go to a temporary location?
Okay.
That would really depend on the temporary location. Could we secure it? How far it is?
Mm-hmm. And we have, and maybe Mr. Lowry can speak to this, but I think we have a kind of a deadline from the homeowner, correct?
The last I heard, and I just want to be totally transparent, I haven't heard it from the homeowner, but the last I heard was that January 1st was their deadline.
Okay. To start the moving process and have the property off the land.
I heard they wanted the house off the property by January 1st,
Yes.
but again, I did not hear, I just want to, it's third party, so.
Okay.
Just like to be clear.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any audience comments?
Yes, Bill Lowry.
Hey, Bill Howard, still 2405 Westwood Way. First off, I want to thank everybody. This is always going to be a long shot, okay? And it's a great house, and it's a shame to see it go, okay? I want to thank the Pezzas because they offered to donate it long ago, and it just worked out to be the timing of this now. I want to thank you, commissioners, because you met with me, and I know your heart's in the right place as far as this goes. And I really want to thank the city because they were put into a short, had to make a lot of decisions in a quick amount of time. And although I might disagree with some of these findings or the amounts, what's controlled is the time frame here. And so it doesn't really make a difference how much it's going to cost. It's, you know, it's a situation where, as Commissioner Maldonado said, I don't want these folks to have to delay what they want to do, and they've been planning for a year to do that. However, this is a great location. There's other houses that may want to be donated at some time that might be smaller, it might be easier to move, or this is a good exercise for all of us in the city and the community. I've met with a lot of people, got a lot of support. As you all know, we're slowly losing our historic district based on the houses being knocked down. This is a location the city owns. It's right in the heart of the historic district. It's not a matter of replacing the shuffleboard clubhouse. It's about replacing history. And if it can be used partially as a shuffleboard clubhouse, that's great. These folks don't really need much. They need a place to store their cues and perhaps a bathroom. I'm sure they can walk to the Paradise Grill in the short term. Okay, so you know, there's a lot of new demolitions that are coming up. As we've said before, there was 30 this year of historic houses. That's, I don't know, but that might be 10 or 15% of the contributing structures that exist there. Other commissioners in other districts, you may be looking to get historical homes there. You may be looking to get a historical district. We've got to start focusing on maintaining this, especially in Paso Grill, which already is a historic district. So anybody that's watching this or listening to this, you know, there's people that are still making decisions about their homes. Now we've at least got a little bit of idea of how we go through this in case something in the future happens. And so I think it's a good experience for everybody. Again, I want to thank everybody for what they did. I know Mr. Jordan, I spoke to him, I spoke to a lot of people, and he has probably some ideas that will be good for you all to hear and the city as well. But we're still under this problem of time, that we can't change that. And so this is, you know, nice slide, but we're out, I think, on this particular home. And it's just a shame because it's such a great house. So again, thank you all for listening to me.
Thank you, sir.
Amy Lowry.
She's not here.
Charles Jordan.
Good evening. If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Charles Jordan. I have a company called New World Builders, which is a licensed general contractor specializing in historic buildings. My address is 426 North Stone Street in DeLand, Florida. And I came down here tonight, you know, basically figuring that we were going to be able to see how we can save this house. And I still think that there's a possibility it's not going to work with your setup right now. But some of the things that I've heard are not exactly true, and I think we need to address them now so that if the private sector moves forward with this, that we're not running up against an obstacle. One thing that I heard, we're talking about insuring, it probably doesn't matter to you once it gets to the private sector, but insuring a moved building, which we've done numerous times in the past, insuring a building in transit is a transportation insurance issue that is handled by the actual building mover. We have a subcontractor we've used for 25 years to move structures. And in order to do that, clearly nobody wants to spend money to move a structure and have their money lost if there's an incident in transit. So that was one thing. Also, you mentioned that it needs to be designated. Florida Building Code has 2 chapters in the existing buildings code. One is for historic buildings, which gives the building official broad discretion as to how to handle changes in a historic building. And those changes need to be consistent with the U.S. Secretary of Interior standards, which then leads to the possibility that you're not going to be able to do that with a strict reading of the regular building code. So the building official has the authority to say, okay, this isn't going to hurt anybody, so we can do this. So that's one chapter. The next chapter is a chapter on relocated buildings. And again, if the building is a contributing building in a historic district, the historic preservation law, as I understand it, is that that is a designated building. National Register, for instance, if you have a contributing building in the National Register district and you want to go and designate it individually, you can, but they're going to say why there's no further benefit to that. So that was another issue.
Charles, are those chapters 12 and 13?
Right, Chapter 12 is the historic buildings. Okay. Chapter 13 is the relocated buildings.
Thank you.
Right, and relocated buildings, like if you're relocating a residential building to a residential use, you're not even obligated to bring up code issues like electrical, plumbing, that type of thing. You can just hook it back up. As long as the hookup is proper, you're good to go in terms of the code. So there are, the code recognizes the difficulty in building moves and historic buildings in both cases, and it's built into the code to let these things happen. And I bring this up now because I think it's really important that we have the full cooperation of the city if we try to move forward with a private party move here, because it all does have to happen as soon as possible. No question about it.
Thank you, sir.
The other issue is.
Thank you, sir.
Project like this,
Sir.
if you're looking in the future.
Sir, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
City manager, do we have his contact information? Sir?
I don't. Charles, could you leave your card with me?
We have an email with all of his
Okay, we'll
information.
get in touch with you.
Thank you, sir.
Michael Pezza.
If you please state your name and address for the record.
It's Michael Pezza, 103 24th Avenue. I'm the owner of the house.
Yeah.
So hello, everyone. So I just wanted to come up tonight. When we started this, my wife and I have lived here in Paso Grill now for 8 years. And we looked at Paso Grill like in 1998, fell in love with it. And took us a long time. I don't have a family history with a lot of money. Okay, everything we've done, we've worked hard and built up. So bought the house. My wife would be very happy to hear that you guys said it was nicely decorated. She's very proud of that. So, but when it started, we didn't. We felt when we talked about donating it, it wasn't that we were doing it for any other reason but to keep it in Paso Grill. That's what it was all about, okay? Because we felt if it moved, then we found out our neighbor talked about the history with the house, with the mayor, shuffleboard court, and everything else. So, we were really happy about that. We always knew it was a long shot, So it's not that I'm so disappointed, but the thing I really wanted to say was this: the whole reason we were doing it to donate it was to keep it in Paso Grill. That was what it was about. There's some talk now of other interest in it, but that is different. That's more of a business deal, not a, donating it emotionally and trying to keep it there. So, so I just wanted to say that, and I also wanted to say thank you to the staff here, Kristen and Randy. They did a great job. Anytime we called them, they helped, which was amazing. So. And I just felt that, again, I really wanted this to happen, but the timing on it is obviously crucial, but I mean, that cost is insane. I mean, there's no way with that cost. So, I mean, if that cost was reasonable, could we have worked a little bit with the timing? We would have done everything we could, but I just want to say, and I just want to say thank you for everybody for even looking into it and going. John has helped out a lot, and he represents our district and does a great job with it, so thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was very generous of you.
Jay Anderson.
Good evening. If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Jay Anderson, 202 Passigo Way. The gentleman that's just up here, he spoke to why this came up, wanting to move a house. He moved here because he loved Passigo, he loved historic, he loved old homes. And so the groundswell in the community was, if we can save a home, because we did lose over 30 homes, many have been contributing. And it's important that this community keep its historic integrity. It's important for us, and it's important for St. Pete Beach because, as you all know, there's 3 districts up here, but Passigo's down here, and it's its own little gem. But you all love Passigo, and you help sell it for us. It's marketed well. It's a great old community. So we're worried about what we have and what we might lose. Thank goodness Carl and the Hollenbachs have taken the Seahorse and put it back just the way it is. You're probably going to have to get a reservation to get in when they open. And then 8th Avenue, all those merchants, the same merchants are still there because they wanted to keep it. They had costs out of pocket to put back their houses or their businesses, and everybody is still there. It's important. So not getting this house is not great. I was going to say, if we could save some money on Mary Pier, we could put it towards moving this house. But the timeline is what's going to take care of that. So if we have the opportunity in the future to do something to replace the shuffleboard court in a manner that fits historic community values, it's important for us to try to do that some way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That's all on this topic?
Thank you. Commissioners, discussion, recommendations? Commissioner Robinson?
Well, I'm saddened by not being able to save a historic home. I'll start with that. And I hope that there might be somebody else who wants to donate something smaller maybe, or something historic that maybe we can make something out of and do something with, because I think it's imperative that we do save as many of our historic homes here on the beach, for sure. Unfortunately, timing on this just doesn't appear to work. And again, the finances. So I'm hoping that we might have another opportunity possibly down the road here, that some other resident would like to donate something to the city if they are going to tear down their home. So I put that out as a plea to the community to consider that if you are, and reach out to your commission and your city manager if you do feel that way and love the historic homes as most of us do.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Maldonado?
So I have a list of folks that I just want to thank for sitting down and entertaining these notions and working diligently behind the scenes. I'll start with the Pezzas, Mike and Angie, for just being willing to try to give this house up, which is an incredible and generous thing to do, for just having the forethought to think about that really means a lot to us. And as Commissioner Robinson says, maybe this is a seed that we planted here so that we can replenish and continue to maintain the historic character of Passaic Grill. Dr. Catherine Wilkins from USF, she was here earlier. I think that out of disgust or disappointment, as soon as I said that we were conceding and couldn't stomach it, she got up and walked away. She did a lot of work behind the scenes. She's passionate. She works with our historical museum and things like that. Monica Drake with the Heritage Village, Tom Schofield with the Historic Preservation up in Pinellas County, Charles Jordan, thank you. You're an expert, you're a subject matter expert on this, as a matter of fact. So I do hope that the city follows up with you and learns and documents the things that you talked about. Bill Lowry, our own district member, as well as Historic Preservation Board Chair, really just, is passionate about saving Passaic Grill. And every house that gets demolished or has been destroyed, it's like a cut. It's death by 1,000 cuts, right? We've lost 30 historical structures this year, unprecedented history. and a significant number to see go away. And I hope that the other districts start to benefit from our land development code and our historical documents where we start to have more houses. I know Commissioner Robinson, your house was recently designated, and it's a huge testament to what we can do as a community here in St. Pete Beach. And then last and finally, the staff. We made you jump through hoops. We realize that, that when the commission gets an idea, we're idea fairies. Sometimes we task the city manager, we give her direction, but the bottom line is that you're the workhorses and the machine behind the face. So thank you sincerely. I know hours and hours were spent researching this, and it doesn't go without saying thank you. So now, I don't know if Joe McIntyre, is he here? Is Joe here? You are? Yes. Joe, you didn't sign up to speak, so before I even say anything, are we looking decent?
Yes, possibility.
Okay, so I will say this, to be transparent with the commission, that there is one silver lining. The potential exists that Joe may acquire the house privately through the PEZAs and seek to move that within St. Pete Beach. That would not be a commission decision. That would fall squarely on the shoulders of our city manager. The only thing I would ask is that you prioritize it appropriately, the timeline being the biggest thing going against us. And it's a Hail Mary. We're in football season, so this is 3rd and 75, So we'll see what happens. I wish you both success with it, but it just goes to show that there are citizens within our community that are willing to do the right thing and expend a lot of money, quite frankly, to try to save a incredible house. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commission, do we have consensus? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have general audience comments. City Clerk.
David Hubbard.
If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
David Hubbard, Boca Ciega, Isle Drive. I am speaking personally, not as a member of the planning board. I just wanted to come because of the power outage. There was no commission meeting last week, and that was the closest one to the tree lighting ceremony. And I just wanted to come and thank the city staff that were involved in the planning and execution of that. It was fantastic. The adding of a DJ, the Kona Ice Band that my daughter loved, Chick-fil-A food, and the Festival of Trees was such a great idea and made it a lot better than the prior events. The thing that I wanted to address is I feel like the city missed an opportunity on some communication related to this event. It was really fantastic, and it was a charity auction, and I had no clue about that before going. I thought it was going to be check out some Christmas trees and be on our way, but it was a silent charity auction, and every one of these trees had major contributions from a lot of local businesses. We just happened to win the tree that had $200 in gift cards donated by Buona Ristorante down in Dolphin Village, and before we arrived, I had no idea. So if that had been made public and shared widely, I think a lot of more people would have come and got involved in that auction, and that could have been a lot of money that went to the charity, which was Kind Mouse, that helps kids in need with meals this time of year. So it was a great charity. It was a great event, and I thought better publicity around those businesses that donated to the trees could have occurred, and to thank those businesses and just let people know what was there to be had. My wife has volunteered if there is some way for the city to have a citizens outreach of volunteers who want to go business to business to share these types of charity or entertainment events. She would love to do it. I don't know if the city has ever conceptualized that type of volunteer outreach program to feed these volunteers the information they need to go business to business and share this information, but it would be something to investigate if that's an option. The only other thing I had was, usually this event coincides with a boat parade. There was mention that the boat parade was canceled due to lack of interest. I never heard about it. I know a lot of people else did not hear about it. I searched all the city's social media feeds and news feeds. There was no mention of it. So then when I arrived at the tree lighting, I was surprised to see a sign-up desk for next year's boat parade, which is really hard to plan a year in advance when, in my case, I can't even get my boat off my lift if the tides aren't compatible, and I don't know what my kid's school schedule is going to be next December. So I think the city needs to do better outreach about the boat parade in the month or two leading up to it, not a year in advance, and there could be a lot more participation because it was really fun to see that, and I might even want to participate in the future. So that's it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Kathy Garshow.
If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Kathy Garshaw, 3607 Casablanca Avenue. So I just wanted to speak up today. First of all, what awesome topics we just heard on, and just great to see how the community and the city are working together, and that's kind of why I'm here tonight as well. I've had the privilege of working really closely for over a year. So now, as you, I think we're all, except for you, John, in your position, but working on the Don Cesar resiliency efforts. But as a result, been working closely, thankfully, with our public services director, Camden Mills, and with our city manager, and also with finance team. So I know that not everybody gets that privilege, and I do consider it a privilege. Having said that, I think that you all are about creating transparency and visibility and building trust with this community. And I think one of the things that I would love to see, just like you worked on through building back post the hurricane, the conversations that Laura and the team led with bringing in information about how we were tracking to things. I don't want to make work for anybody, especially not for Mr. Mills over here. I know how busy he already is, but we have so much going on in capital improvements, and maybe there's going to be some new projects that unfortunately were unforeseen going into this financial year. So I'm just here tonight because I would really love for this commission and the city manager to consider a discipline of looking at, say, whatever it might be, the top dozen priority projects that we have going on, and maybe even in a more simplified way saying, where are we really tracking against these projects and these investments? Because I don't want to throw, and this is not meant to throw anybody under the bus, but I do want to show, this is 2025. I don't know if I've said it in the right way. I just highlighted this was from 2025 and what we plan to accomplish. I mean, I lean in on these things, as I think we all do, and then things happen, reality hits. And I'm just highlighting 3 of them because I do believe that these are the areas, of course, that I've been working with the city and monitoring. But if you look at those, I think we probably would all say they're not where we would have expected them to be, and possibly even they've evaporated as even projects on our list. So as we look at adding $58 million, probably I think is maybe the number from this year, how do we just even look at 2025's projects? Where are those? Because I think those have to be done, or at least considered that they're no longer going to be done, and be genuine in telling us as a community about them. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no more general comments.
Okay, thank you. Next, we move on to the consent agenda.
Are there any comments on the consent agenda? Commissioners? If not, I would like to just highlight something briefly on item 4C, going back to Kathy's comment just 30 seconds ago. I think it's important for the community to understand where we're spending money. You know, and that's something that we've worked on very hard for the last couple of years, make sure that we're very transparent. And I think it's just important for the community to see that we've spent so far $12.5 million just on the recovery efforts for the city. So this is money that we've put out, and we're hoping, praying that at some point insurance and FEMA comes back to us, which is also part of the reason why we have that $12 million interest-free bridge loan that we voted on a few months ago. But we have here, 13 pages single-spaced of just, one item after the other. And when you see things like, for example, snacks, lunch for all the staff, that was because in many of those days, our staff worked from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. nonstop without a lunch. Sometimes 6 days, 7 days a week in the very early days. And so when you get a chance, take a look at that. That is an exhaustive list, and I think we're still adding to it. So I think it's just important for our community to understand, where we're spending money and what we're spending money on. With that, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda. I second.
City Clerk, if you'll please do a roll call.
Commissioner Rosnicki?
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson?
Yes.
Mayor Petrilla?
Yes.
The motion carries. And Mayor, I did miss one comment. I'd like to see if he's still here. David Garcia?
If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
David Garcia, 4145 South Falkenberg Road. Once again, David Garcia, I do government affairs for Spectrum, the local internet service provider here in St. Pete Beach. I'm just here to simply say thank you all for your partnership over the years, especially during hurricane events and storm events, where we've worked very closely together to get people back online and to get them connected as quickly as possible. I do want to thank City Attorney for providing clarification and feedback on Ordinance 2025-24 on communication and fiber infrastructure, and that ordinance was not intended to impact us in any way. So I want to appreciate that clarification and the conversations that we've had. I want to thank some of you that I've already met for taking the time to meet with me and hear our concerns so that we can continue this partnership together with the City of St. Pete Beach and Spectrum. I do have some cards here for the rest of you who I haven't had a chance to meet with one-on-one yet. I can leave them here with the clerk or whoever, and would love to connect with you all. But I just wanted to stop by, introduce myself, David Garcia, Government Affairs with Spectrum, and thank you for your time, and we look forward to continuing our partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, would you be opposed to a short 7-minute recess? Okay, we will be back at 7:35 sharp. We are back in session. Next, we have item 5A, final reading of ordinance 2025-23.
An ordinance of the City of St. Pete Beach, Florida, providing amendment of Article 2, Division 4, Sections 2-281 through Sections 2-295 of the St. Pete Beach Code of Ordinances, providing purpose and intent, updating and clarifying the definitions, establishing the authority and duties of the procurement manager, clarifying the authority to award, updating the procurement methodology and emergency procurements, changing contract administration, prescribing procurement protests, establishing a vendor suspension and debarment process, providing for codification, conflicts, severability, correction of scrivener's errors, construction, publication, and an effective date. I did want to note that on page 65 of 380 in your packet, in section 2-283, subsection 20, it says county attorney. It should say city attorney there. We're borrowing that section from the county. It should say city attorney as we're going to be implementing it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Comments, questions, discussion? Commissioner Robinson?
I had seen in here a couple things. One was number 18 on the, there's travel listed in here twice, travel expenses. I don't believe that was meant to be there under the exemptions. Number 18, and I believe 26. Is it one or the other?
What page number do you know?
Page 65 of 380.
Okay.
And page 66 of 380. 18 is on 65. 26 is on 66.
Yeah, we can change. We could take out 26 and renumber.
And then I just wanted clarification too on item 24, that was strictly upgrades and modifications. It wasn't actually purchasing of software, because I think we've had software up to $400,000 before.
We could say instead of upgrades, comma, software modification, upgrades of software modification services.
And something I just want to make sure it's not software in general, it's just the upgrades to the software, or
Upgrades to would be good, okay.
or the modification of.
Okay.
Because software is not cheap. And then I just had a general comment. I'd like to start, you know, I'm just promoting that we are doing a lot of, in any of our procurement procedures, that when we do RFPs, RFBs, whatever you'd like to call them, when we're looking at quotes, that we're actually, you know, shopping them like we would as a resident would, you know, looking for apples to apples. Because I believe I've seen some things that are kind of apples to oranges, and we kind of just kind of cruise past those. I would like to see more of that, and I kind of I've mentioned this to Francis a bit about tasking to make sure we're doing that we're shopping like if it was your own purchase. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. City Clerk, do we have any audience comments?
There are no comments on this item.
Thank you. Commissioners, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-23
With the changes described tonight.
with changes described tonight.
Thanks.
I second. City Clerk, if you can please do a roll call.
Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott,
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruznicki,
Yes.
and Mayor Petrilla.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next, we have item 5C, final reading of ordinance 2025-22.
An ordinance of the City of St. Pete Beach, Florida, creating Land Development Code Section 6.26, certified recovery residences, establishing procedures for the review and approval of certified recovery residences, and a process for requesting reasonable accommodations from local land use regulations as mandated by a new Florida statute, providing for severability, codification, conflicts, and an effective date. This is the final and second reading.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, questions, comments, discussion? City Clerk, do we have any audience comments?
There are no audience comments on this item.
Thank you. Commissioners, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2025-22.
Second.
City Clerk, if you please do a roll call.
Vice Mayor Marriott,
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosnicki,
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
and Mayor Petrilla.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have item 5D, final reading of ordinance 2025-25.
An ordinance of the City of St. Pete Beach, Florida, providing for amendments to the Land Development Code, Section 3.14, Appeals, providing for codification, conflicts, severability, correction of scrivener's errors, construction, publication, and an effective date. This is the final second reading.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions, comments, discussion? City Clerk, do we have any audience comments?
There are no audience comments on this item.
Commissioners, is there a motion?
Make the motion to adopt ordinance 2025-25.
Second.
City Clerk, if you please do a roll call.
Commissioner Robinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosnicki,
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott,
Yes.
Mayor Petrilla. The motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have action items. The first one is 6A, Resolution 2025-27, approving conditional use permit number 25133 for open deck dining on the second floor and third floors of a newly constructed restaurant on the property located at 4804 Passer Grill Way.
This is a quasi-judicial public hearing, so we'll have to swear the witnesses and do ex parte disclosures.
So anyone who will be speaking or testifying before the commission needs to be sworn in. Please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So sworn.
Thank you, City Clerk.
Are there any communications with the city council regarding this item? Those would be considered ex parte communications, which you should disclose and state who spoke with or the nature of the conversation, whether you performed a site visit. Maybe
So-
we could go down the row.
So I'll start. I've met with the applicant. I conducted a site visit. I've reviewed the technical review committee's notes, and I've read the LDC pertaining to the applicant.
Thank you.
I visited the site, spoke with a couple of residents in the area, watched the TRC. I think that's it. Yep.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. I reviewed the application package, the Land Development Code Comprehensive Plan, visited the property and spoke with a few individuals about the project.
Thank you.
I as well visited the property. I spoke with 2 residents in regards to it and did review the packet as well as TRC technical review and the LDC.
Thank you.
I've reviewed the packet, the application packet, and the technical review committee meeting and drove past the site.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you.
Not yet.
I don't think they want Pump Station 1.
I've got copies we can pass out.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Gil Martinez, Senior Planner, just provide us a moment to address some technical difficulty we just encountered.
Okay. We have a request from staff to hear CUP action item number 2. Before we hear this one, to be able to get all the presentations and technical difficulties sorted out.
We'll hear then Resolution 2025-28, approving conditional use permit 25112 for Phase 1 and 2 Pump Station 1 improvements at 0 and 8665 Boca Ciega Drive. 0 and 8665 Boca Ciega Drive.
Hold on, Brandon. Do I need to swear him in again for this item?
Again, this is a quasi-judicial public hearing, so if we could swear all witnesses and do an ex parte disclosures for this item.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So sworn.
Thank you. Commissioner Maldonado?
So I've reviewed the packet and spoke with staff on this matter.
Thank you.
I reviewed the packet as well and spoke with staff.
Thank you.
Likewise, I reviewed the packet and spoke with staff.
Thank you.
I reviewed the packet.
Thank you.
I reviewed the packet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Brendan Berry, planner with St. Pete Beach. If we could pull up the PowerPoint, please. This is conditional use permit 25112 for, as mentioned, 0 and 8665 Boca Ciega Drive. These are adjacent properties. I'm supported by the Assistant City Manager as well as our Public Services Director. This is a conditional use permit. The City of St. Pete Beach requests to improve Pump Station 1 to replace exterior odor control unit, replace submersible pumps, install an elevated generator, and make associated interior, exterior, and underground improvements associated with phases 1 and 2 of the Pump Station 1 rehabilitation project. This request is made pursuant to Land Development Code Section 6.19 and 19.2. Here's a listing of exhibits. Properties are on the southeastern side of the 87th Avenue street end. The two adjacent properties that, of course, contain the Pump Station 1 building, as well as the northern property that will contain some of the improvements. The zoning of the property is RU2 residential district as well as transportation utility district. The second of the two districts is a fairly rare zoning in the city. This is the reason why these requests are coming forward to you and not requests that you would typically see on, for example, property in the town center district, which does allow by right public utility use improvements. Because this is a zoned residential area, this request does need to come forward as a conditional use permit. You can see here a survey of the existing improvements on the property. The site plan for phase one, there's of course a generator on the second story of the building. That is being decommissioned. There is a proposal to install a new generator with an enclosure on the northern side of the building. There are also the odor control pumps located to the west. Surrounding and blocking from view these pumps and generators will be a 8-foot simulated stone wall under phase one. Under phase two, there will be landscaping. There are some other underground submersible improvements. You can see those to the frontage of the building there. And then we also have a transformer placed currently behind the building. It is being located up to the frontage. You can see here the phase two improvements. That includes renovations to the building, no significant change in footprint, as well as the additional landscaping that will provide more effective screening of the odor control pumps and the generators. Those two structures are about 16 to 18 feet in height above the ground. As I mentioned before, the Land Development Code requires a conditional use permit for expansion of public facilities in the Transportation Utility District, as well as in the RU2 Residential District that applies to any development under 3 acres in size, which these properties would constitute. And I listed out the improvements on a prior slide. So the conditional use permit criteria that pertain to this structure, this is a expansion, of course, new utilities and facilities. Noise, of course, is always a concern with generators. The visual screening of the improvements, the odor pumps and generator, the above ground improvements. Lighting, as well as especially the lighting that is on the south side of the building. There is minimal site lighting per the photometric plan, but this is something that the city needs to be concerned of with the building improvements. The generator is set within a 25 decibel reducing enclosure at 1 meter. That's the level of reduction that is recorded at a 1 meter distance away. There is a 35 decibel reduction option, but that is significantly costlier. The selected enclosure would result in the generator being heard at about 90 decibels at 1 meter. That's approximately the sound of a lawnmower. It does train 5 minutes per month. It can, of course, be set to run during the day, so it's not training at night. During an emergency, it would be running constantly. Other items for consideration that we look at in any conditional use permit would be the landscaping. Landscaping screening will be installed in phase two. That is following quickly after phase one. It will be in July of 2026. We expect for the phase one improvements to be undertaken starting at the very beginning of the year. The buttonwoods are installed at 12 feet. They are fast growers. They grow 1 to 2 feet per year. So after 3 or 4 years, we should see pretty effective screening of the odor control pumps and the generator. The 8-foot simulated stone wall will be installed in phase one. Provides only moderate screening of the control pumps. As I mentioned before, they're about 16 feet in height. The wall could be installed closer to the street. It could provide a little more additional screening at phase one, but we do feel that the landscaping would be more effective, make the property look better under the phase two improvements. As I mentioned before, the lighting on the south side of the building will just need to be oriented to avoid spillover and indirect effects. We typically look at the foot candle improvements at the building permit stage. That'll be something we address then. We do not propose any conditions. The City Commission can direct us on any requirements if you feel they're necessary for this project, and it has, of course, been budgeted and gone through staff review. So in terms of the basis for approval, as we provide this comprehensive plan breakdown for any conditional use permit, this is, of course, supported by Goal 1 of the future land use element, the maintenance of character, minimizing threats from hazards and nuisances. Policy 1.7.5, public facilities shall be located to be efficient, cost-effective, and minimize adverse impacts. That finding was made back when this facility was commissioned back in 2003. It still applies today. Goal 1 and Policy 1.1.3 of the infrastructure element support providing safe, efficient, and cost-effective systems and maintenance of level of service standards. Goal 1, Objective 1.1, and Policy 1.1.4, the capital improvements element, pertain to remediation of deficiencies and prioritization of critical public facilities. Staff finds the project has been adequately designed to mitigate nuisances surrounding land uses. We didn't find a basis for denial of this request. This is clearly something that has been carefully considered. The potential adverse impacts have been reasonably mitigated. The enclosure, while it's not as effective as it could be, it should be effective with the building to the south, as well as the enclosure and the soundproofing that it provides to mitigate noise impacts on the surrounding residential uses. The city may wish to consider future waterside screening of the generator with the enclosure due to its height, again, approximately 18 feet. And the lights on the south side of the building will need to be appropriately shielded, which we will look at the building permit stage. We do have action options here. We do request approval for this request. We are not proposing any conditions. We have not received any questions or concerns or comments from the city, from the community on this request. We did notice in tandem with our ordinance. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Woznicki?
I just have a couple. You said you did not receive anything from the community neighborhood. Was there any outreach to the school? I know it's across the street, so it's not neighboring, so I don't know what kind of notice they receive or the process, because it would go to Pinellas County School Board. Was that done by any chance?
We didn't directly outreach to them as far as I know, but we sent a letter just as we sent to all the surrounding properties.
Okay, and it would have gone to the school board, correct?
Correct, yes.
And the reason I bring this up, Brendan, is because, I mean, you know, some people in the community know, I was on their school advisory council, not currently, but was last year while my daughter was still at the school. But one of the there's two issues. One, the odor control. I've had personal experience being there many times, and it was really bad. So I guess my question, and it might go to Camden, is this is a brand-new odor control system that I would hope is much better than what it was. I mean, you literally could be all the way in the back of the school towards the main street, you know, where the kids play basketball, and it was really bad. And I'm going to assume the residents who live immediately next to it, and even the condominium, had to have the same effect. And then the second thing is the noise, because you mentioned that it would be running, obviously we don't want it at night, and it's the sound of a lawnmower, I guess is what you're saying. I don't know what distance that is. And I'm thinking of the school, because if it's being run during the day, there could be issues. And I'll give you examples. I volunteer to when it's test taking at a school, and no one's cutting the grass when it's test taking day at schools, because this is a distractor for the kids who are taking their standardized test or any of the other tests that they may be taking. So we literally have everything quiet, right, at a school. So I just wanted to know if that's going to be communicated, or are we talking about like early in the morning, like not midday, again, the school might not have this information, and I didn't reach out, you know, to the principal, because, again, it probably goes to the school board, and it might have taken a long time to get back to the principal just because of the bureaucracy of how that works. So I just wanted to mention that, because it could be an issue for the school, and again, hopefully that the odor is a big thing. I don't think site-wise, like the look towards the school might be an issue. I don't know, and maybe those in the district will have better from the residents who live, I think, on the north side, because it's going to change. It's going to be closer towards, I would say it's townhomes, right, or condos that are on that north end, and what effect it has for them. I know you mentioned the lighting, and that possibly that would be, you know, dealt with as it gets to permitting, but those were some of my concerns.
And I will say for the generator, I will let Camden speak to the odor control pumps, but that 90 decibels, the lawnmower equivalent, that's measured at a 1 meter distance. So these aren't free field conditions. It's hard to, you know, apply the typical standards, but we would expect it to be significantly less receiving at the school.
Okay. Thank you.
And yes, just to confirm, we will be completely replacing the odor control equipment, so we'll be new, you know, equipment to reduce, improve on what's in there
A
currently.
better caliber, right, than what the prior, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Robinson?
I'm just trying to figure out the enclosure. Is an enclosure all the way around the whole generator unit? Okay. And the reason I ask is because we're talking about noise, and there's right across the waterway, you've got Harborside. And as we all know, and we all should know by now, that noise travels over water quite well. So that 90 dB is, you know, 3 feet, but still, the magnification over water is another concern on that. What was the difference in the pricing on getting a better enclosure, just out of curiosity? Is it significantly more?
I'd have to reach back out to our engineer to confirm that number.
Okay. And what size is this generator?
I don't have that off the top of my hand, but we can follow up with that too.
Okay.
Just to confirm, the generator is only running when we have no power.
Correct.
So
It will drain 5 minutes a month.
Yeah, so it's not running all the time, nonstop. So in the case of emergencies, still going back to that point, do we consider going with a system that has, for example, backup power batteries and the solar panels rather than a diesel generator? Or is the power draw so great that we couldn't do it with power walls, for example?
I can't speak to the feasibility of when this project was initially looked at. I do believe they explored natural gas as an option to see if the generator could be powered that way, and this ultimately I believe was determined to be the most feasible solution for power. But we can follow back up with our engineer and see what preliminary analysis that led to that decision.
Because that would eliminate the noise issue virtually altogether, right?
If that was an option. But I don't think it would be.
Okay.
Have we already purchased the generator?
We have.
We have, okay.
Yep, and it's on order and is scheduled to be delivered later in 2026.
There's a very long lead time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a lot of demand for generators. But just so you know, you can get them as crystal sync and blimped. And that's what they do in movie sets for large generators. So you don't hear it as they produce, as they're filming from audio. But if we've already purchased it, but 5 minutes is just going to be choose wisely on the time that it trains and the day and the time.
Okay.
But it'd be just, I guess it'd be just like somebody else doing, running a lawnmower, mowing their lawn.
City Clerk, do we have any audience comments?
There are no audience comments on this item.
Okay. Commissioners, is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the conditional use permit 25112 for Phase 1 and 2 Pump Station 1 improvements at 0 and 8665 Bocasaga Drive.
Second.
City Clerk, if you please do a roll call.
Commissioner Rosnicki,
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott,
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson,
Yes.
Mayor Petrillo.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. We're now back to action item 5A, Resolution 2025-27.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Gil Martinez, Senior Planner. Before you is a request for a conditional use permit, case number 25133. The property address is 804 Passagrille Way. Agent owner is Mike Keller of Phrase Design, Inc. for John Dashell. The request for the conditional use permit is for the establishment of open deck dining on the second and third floors of a newly constructed restaurant, with the third floor deck requiring the subject conditional use permit for LDC section 4.04B. A list of exhibits in the presentation today include an aerial, a zoning map, a survey, renderings, floor plans, summary of findings, basis for approval with conditions, basis for denial in this location, recommended staff conditions, and action options. This is an aerial image of the property at 804 Passagrille Way. The zoning district is Community Redevelopment District, 8th Ave. This is a boundary survey of the property. Some renderings. To the left, you will see the front of the building facing Passagrille Way. As you can tell, it is a three-story building with the second and third story being the occupied areas of the structure. On the right, you will see the south side of the building. The left indicates the north side of the building, and the right is the rear of the building. This would be your alley view from the rear of the building. So on the floor plan, the second level seating area consists of approximately 2,300 feet. It has a kitchen of 527 square feet. It has 16 dining seats, 12 high chairs, and in the yellow area, which is the area in question, would be 24 seats. That makes a second story a total of about 52 seats. Same applies to the square footage of the third level. The interior dining seats will include 56 seats. There will be approximately 19 bar seats. The open air patio area is 32 seats for a total of 107 seats on your third story. The total number of seats for the restaurant is approximately 159 seats. So request details. Land Development Code Section 40.4B, roofing, dining, and/or drinking areas subject to conditional use requirements, as well as Section 4.12 of the Land Development Code, criteria for review of conditional use applications within the CRDA. The request for 500 square feet of exterior dining on the second level and 640 square feet of exterior seating on the third level. The summary of findings. Conditional use permits. The permit request. The applicant requests a CUP under LDC section 4.04 and 4.12 to allow outdoor dining on the second and third levels of the proposed restaurant at 804 Paso Grill Way. Covered outdoor patios are integrated into the design of the three-story building oriented towards Paso Grill Channel. As proposed, there is no live or amplified sound proposed for the outdoor areas. The hours of operation are proposed to be 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., which is consistent with nearby commercial and recreational activities. The basis for approval with conditions: consistency with the comprehensive plan and LDC. It meets the criteria of section 4.04 and 4.12 of the Land Development Code, and the goal 1 of the future land use element, which states enhance the community character by strengthening tourism-based economic activity. It is compatible in context and sensitive design. The second and third level outdoor dining is modest in scale, architecturally integrated, oriented towards Paso Grill Channel. It reinforces the coastal character and mixed-use patterns of the CRDA. There are no assessed adverse impacts to the surrounding area, as there will be no amplified music. The operating hours match some nearby commercial uses, and the layout preserves the neighborhood views and avoids impact to residential areas. Code-compliant redevelopment. The project meets all applicable dimensional, design, and performance standards, including flood-resilient construction requirements, providing a walkable, high-quality improvement that supports the district's vitality. Recommended conditions, should you want to put any conditions on this? We'd recommend that the conditional use permit run with the land so that any future owner must adhere to the approved conditions, that no outdoor live music is allowed, no changes to the loading and unloading practices, so that any modifications to operational logistics must be reviewed through a CUP amendment. Future amendments required for new impacts ensures that the city can evaluate potential effects and protect the surrounding historical character. Actions before you are: motion to approve, approve with conditions, deny, continue to a specified date. Conditional use permit 25133, resolution 2025-27 for 804 Paso Grill Way. I can take any questions you might have. The applicant and the owner are both here as well.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Robinson?
Oh, I'm sorry, I had that on there. Left over.
Commissioner Maldonado?
Yeah, I would like to amend my disclosures to include extensive outreach with the community. So It's a wonderful site. Okay, it's a great rendition that they've presented to us. I'm very happy with the recommended conditions that staff has recommended for this. I'd like to add, it wasn't mentioned, but it's probably in the packet, that the nearest residence is 316 feet to the south and 328 feet to the north. The loading area is at the rear of the alley, and it's appropriately sized for delivery trucks. This proposed development meets all goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan as stated under LDC sections 4.4A. And incredibly happy to see this. I received 0 pushback from District 4. I can tell you that it reflects and echoes the historic character of Passett Grill, and this is exactly the type of facility, restaurant, building that we would like to be seeing erected in Passett Grill. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Marriott?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what Commissioner Maldonado said. I think this looks like a fantastic project, and it looks like exactly the kind of building that looks like it should have been there all along, which I think is perfect and exactly what you want in Passett Grill. And I think it's a low impact, low negative impact, high positive impact kind of situation. And so I'm really excited to see this move forward.
Commissioner Robinson?
I had one question. It was in regards to parking for 159 seats. What is, I'm not sure what our code is for what we need for parking, or is Passett Grill a little different?
Our code, Commissioner, our code has no requirement for parking within the CRDA.
Okay.
So that's how our code addresses it.
Okay. But I'm sure you'll get lots of walkables. So.
Commission, just one note. There will be an ADA parking space on the ground level of the structure, so that will be accessible as well.
City Clerk, are there any audience comments?
Ruth Shiros.
Ruth Shiros, 1002 Passett Grill Way, and I am his residential to the north, and I 100% agree with this project. I think it's beautiful for Passett Grill. It's what we need. We are getting a lot of modern-looking buildings that don't really fit what we're trying to do down there, and we're 100% for it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
There are no further audience comments.
Okay. Yeah, I think this project exemplifies when I think of responsible, high-quality redevelopment. That fits the look and feel of a historically designated neighborhood. As the commissioner said, it looks like it was always there and always belonged there. So I'm happy to see this project happen. I think it'd be a great addition for 8th Avenue and Passett Grill Way. With that, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I make the motion to approve Resolution 2025-27.
Second.
City Clerk, if you'll please do a roll call.
Commissioner Maldonado.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott.
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson.
Yes.
Commissioner Ruznicki.
Yes.
Mayor Petrillo.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have items for discussion.
We
Commissioner,
have 6C, right?
6C is next.
sorry.
Resolution 2025-29, the Live Local Act property tax exemption. This is a resolution of the City of St. Pete Beach, Pinellas County, Florida, pursuant to Section 196.1978, Parent 3, Parent 0, Florida statutes, electing to not exempt property from ad valorem property tax under Section 196.1978 3D1A Florida statutes, commonly known as the Live Local Act property tax exemption, providing for incorporation of recitals, required findings, direction to the mayor, direction to the city manager, applicability, severability, and a conditional effective date. And this is a statutory requirement that this, if we are going to do this, be done before January 1st. However, with the federal government shutdown, the Schimberg report that this relies on was not available in December, yet we still have to adopt this. So if the Schimberg report comes out and shows that we're not eligible for this exemption, then we would not file this. The resolution does also direct the city manager and the mayor to process the executed copy of the resolution prior to the statutory deadline. So we'll wait and see what the 2025 Schimberg annual report confirms, but we believe it will confirm the St. Pete Beach's eligibility to opt out pursuant to Section 2 of this resolution. What in effect it does is keeps more of the ad valorem taxes within the city for us to do what we think is appropriate with.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions, comments? Audience comments? Laura, do you have anything you would like to add?
There are no audience comments.
All right. Commissioners, is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve Resolution 2025-29, Live Local Act Property Tax Exemption.
Second.
City Clerk, if you can please do a roll call.
Vice Mayor Marriott,
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosnicki,
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
and Mayor Petrilla.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Commissioner Maldonado, you had 2 items, please.
Yeah, I'd like to start with the dog beach over in Passick-Grill. As my fellow commissioners have now seen, there is a petition being brought forward to have that converted to off-leash. What I would like to ask respectfully is to have our Parks and Recreations Committee look at this, see what all it would entail, and then also look at the ADA requirements for the dog beach, which we probably don't meet right now. So it's certainly something that has precedence in neighboring beaches, and then also just in my own research, dogs being off leashes tend to curb aggression, so there are some positive benefits, but there may be a lot of negative unintended consequences. And I would like to have the Parks and Recs, with your consensus, look at that and come to the commission with some kind of action plan. Thank you.
What about the property owner to the right? Land's End?
Yeah, that would be something to consider and look
Yeah,
at, whether it
just
requires
because-
fencing.
Yeah, because that is underneath their docks at tides. You can walk all the way around their property.
Absolutely.
Virtually. So there's going to be dogs out there. and-
My biggest concern is that they run out into the street, because as it stands right now, there is no safeguards.
Right.
So what would that entail? Is it, again, we're talking about being good stewards of city money. Is it something that we're willing to invest in now? What would the cost be? What are the liabilities? And we'll go from there. So.
Well, is it something that the folks doing the petition for it want to support financially with doing fencing?
That's a great option.
Take it off the city's plate.
Is fencing on the beach even an option?
Yeah, sure.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is, sorry, let me turn this on. Is it okay if I?
Yes.
Because I've seen it in Fort DeSoto, and also Madera Beach Fundamental School is literally right next to another beach, dog beach, that is fenced by the water, kind of some weird perimeter, but they also have big pine, Australian pines in that area, so it kind of contains them. And to Commissioner Maldonado's point, there could be some unintended consequences. My experience in Fort DeSoto, just because I go often, especially to do beach cleanups or dives, because we dive that pier that's right next to, when I say we, the Florida Aquarium, I volunteer. But when we're out there, those large dogs literally come running, and we have sometimes kids who are doing the beach cleanup as well, and they go far distances. I mean, it takes a while for the owner to even recognize that their dog is much further down the beach, though it is marked as a dog beach, but there happens to be a pier there. In the case of our city, like Commissioner Robinson said, there is homes, and you don't know if there's kids over there or what's going on, and there could be an unintentional consequence. So I would agree to maybe have the rec look into it, the feasibility, maybe compare it to other cities, maybe reach out to other cities to see maybe some of what they already know are unintentional consequences, because it would be nice. It probably would help reduce, if the residents and the public knew there was a place to take their dogs to the beach safely, it might reduce the amount that are going to where we're trying to avoid on the west side of the island. So I think it's worth the look.
Thank you. Commissioner Maldonado?
Can I just get a sense from the commission? I'm seeing head nods, but what kind of timeline are you looking at with all the other priorities on the table? Urgency, just trying to get a sense.
It's certainly not urgent, but I think that the next meeting for Parks and Recs is in March, possibly.
Okay.
So, I mean, certainly a good time span after the holidays, time to recoup. And at the same time, I would ask, constituents to reach out to me as the most impacted commissioner and let me know how you truly feel about it. Because a lot of the people on the petition don't live in St. Pete Beach. They're users. We welcome them. They bring value to the neighboring restaurants and parking. We love when they pay for parking. But there may be unintended consequences with the inn. And that's my biggest thing is, it should not impact the health and safety of residents. It should enhance the community. There are some community members that would like to do that, and it also, looking at the sheriff on this reduces their need to sit there and enforce it, because they do quite frequently have to give warnings and citations to people that are not following the plethora of signs that are there. And it could be very confusing. If you ever go out there, there's signs, and it's just, which is first. And to Commissioner Reznicki's point, I'm trying to curb people from wandering west and allowing dogs to roam, whether on leash or off leash, on the beaches where they're prohibited, absolutely prohibited, unless they're service animals. And that seems to not resonate with some people. So, thank you.
Commissioner Maldonado, the next Parks and Rec is on January 20th.
January 20th. Okay, so not that soon. Yeah.
We could bring it to them at that meeting as something to look at for the following meeting.
Yeah.
Which is quarterly, right?
Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah. So I missed that one. So I was intending to just bring it to your attention and then have something worked out by that March meeting. So, thank you.
Sure. Does that give you what you need, City Manager?
Thank you, yes.
Okay. And Commissioner Maldonado, you also had the CRDA?
Yeah, if we can bring up the slide to page 206, which has the zoning map for Casa Grill, or you can individually scroll down to 206. So this Community Redevelopment District, CRD 8th Avenue, I've spoken with the city manager about this and informally asked that we just get more information as a commission. I wanted to bring this to the commission's attention because we're starting to have conflicts. And if you review the planning boards, the Board of Adjustments, the Historic Preservation Board, CRD is often cited and spoken about. My own independent research causes me to pause and think very hard about this on the fact that we may have to go back and revisit this, because we have ROR, we've got CRDEA, and then we have ROS all bumping into one another. And my own understanding of the CRDEA, it was created specifically for a project, I believe it was the Holloway Hotel, where they had configured 3 parcels together. Long story short, that fell apart. That did not get much support or traction from districts as well as the commission at the time. But now we're starting to run into situations where there's proposed buildings coming up. 702, for example, is riding that line between CRD and ROR. And they're a great example to look at because it's no fault to the owner of that property. You know, I do sympathize and hear their arguments and their side. And then I think that it puts the staff at a very difficult situation trying to interpret these things. So I want a formal look at that. I'd like to see transcripts. You know, I think that part of the problem is that the city lost records going back, I think, before 2020. So I can only pull up certain things. This may require our interpretation as a current commission on whether or not this need still exists and how it's unintentionally impacting the historical character of Paso Grill, as well as conflicting with ROR. And I would like to bring that up for discussion at the next commission meeting in January because it's a precedent to the Board of Adjustments that's going to hear this case. So it would not only serve us, even if we can't come up with a perfect solution, the staff is going to have some information available to the Board of Adjustments that I think are going to be critical in this next case because it's going to set a precedent either way. You know, there are going to be concessions and adjustments necessary either on behalf of the city or in this case the applicant. So it's a hard look. It's very confusing. You know, if you just look at that, it's not very clean. And if you look at the history, then I think that we're going to see that my inescapable conclusion is that that need no longer exists. So, thank you. The other part of that was the height limits for Paso Grill. Same thing. I'd like to have a deep dive into that, you know, and it all pivots around this BFE. Where does it start? You know, what was in the mindset of the commission and city planners and city staff at the time that this came to be? Again, very limited documentation, subject to interpretation. I've spoken with different people, and it's all based on their judgment, training, and expertise. I'm not going to say opinion because it's not. Everybody has subject matter expertise in certain things, and they believe that they're telling me their understanding. And it really is starting to push max capacity and max height, especially when you talk about ancillary spaces on rooftops. You know, and that may involve some drones, unfortunately, city manager. You know, that's something that if I'm being told and reviewing some of the previous meetings, I'm being told one structure is this high, this will be shorter, this will be higher. Well, to a layman, a person just looking at it physically, I find that hard to accept. So I want to dissect that. I want to start the new year with some new guidance moving forward, knowing that there may be some cases where we have to grandfather things, that there may be adjustments we may have to make internally, but we're setting a new path and a new vision for Paso Grill through a new, fresh set of eyes and a commission that's very open to interpretation and understanding. With that, thank you.
Commissioner Reznicki?
Just a question for you, Commissioner, because I think I've heard about this several times with the Historic Preservation Board. Is that someone, or I don't know if you, with yours, have you spoken to them? Because I've heard it come up on Historic Preservation Board when they say we need to relook at this, like they recognize that there is an issue or had been an issue. I remember when the Dewey was also constructed, that was an issue with the auxiliary that you're talking about that was on the roof and whether it's higher or not and what was being proposed, you know, on the Holland. All of that kept coming up, and I thought from what I had seen that that's something that they may have been working on, but I can't remember. And then I say they being the Historic Preservation Board, that was going to come back to the commission.
So the answer is no. I have not spoken directly to the Historic Preservation Board about it. Mostly it's through comments, as you've observed, that are visible and available to everyone. It's through the transcripts. Barry, you know, does a great job, and He's a builder, you know, he wants to build things, and he gives his expertise. You know, I've also reflected upon a lot of the comments that he has, you know, for consistency, but not spoken to Barry about it either directly. So, you know, I've mentioned it in passing informally to the city manager that it was going to be one of my things to pursue next year, because we do have so many things that we're trying to get ahead of, but I think it's a good time to really dig down into this, because there are going to be unintended consequences moving forward. Right now, as we've seen and discussed, with the number of homes that are being demolished, that are impacted, there's not going to be land grabs, but there's going to be desires. At the same time, I'm looking at this map, 808 would open up to more possibilities if that came off of the CRD EA. So it actually enhances and helps the community in its flexibility. And in terms of the city, I think operational efficiency would be achieved. We would have a new standard, a new look, no matter how this goes. My bottom line is I'm being open-minded on this. I just want to have the discussion. I don't want to rely on information that we may not even be able to retrieve, because I've tried my best, and about the furthest I can go back is 2020. You know, and then it seems at that point we had records issues.
I think it was called something else. It wasn't. It changed names. It was.
Yeah.
It was SPA, Special Something Area. It was called literally called something else. Yeah. And this one though went hand in hand with the Corey Avenue, with the town center here. Mm-hmm. So they were at the same time. They weren't different as far. But I do believe the height limits that you're talking about with auxiliary items, it's a citywide thing. It's not just a Paso Grill. I mean, I saw one home that had a generator on top of it, and I'm going, did they just get a crane and put it up there just for the hurricane to keep it up there, or is that going to stay up there? I'm not sure. But that would be a citywide issue. Yeah,
and I'm trying to be transparent, because developers know what they're dealing with. You know, however we view and look at this, it would be either affirming or clarifying a standard to include that gray area. You know, because what does it mean? You know, can I put a rooftop uninhabited space and enclose it, but nobody lives up there, but they can use it 24 hours a day? You know, again, these are things that don't cause me to lose sleep, but certainly I get a lot of questions about for my constituents. And as I just try to educate myself on these things, I find it more questioning than answers. And you just brought something up I'd never heard, so now I will lose sleep over that tonight. You know,
well, some of it is simply elevator shafts, too.
Yes,
you know,
chimneys and elevator shafts, very clear.
Or pretty much that, but you know, it opens up a whole different.
It does, and it helps. You know, like I said, operational efficiency. It's going to help our staff, because whatever, you know, recommendations or whatever we decide, then it's transparent and it's very clear. You know, there's no longer second guessing or interpreting. And again, no one is at fault here. You know, I commend our staff for being subject matter experts, but the varied degrees, you know, based on judgment, training, and expertise, could go back to where they studied. I don't know what cities they've come from. I don't know. But I'm getting interpretations, and I read the same thing, and then I'm just taken back by how two people can read something other than lawyers. Lawyers are famous for this. It's going to be a sword or a shield, right? But I just want consistency. I want clarity, and I want this to happen before the next planning board to help them deliberate a case that they're going to be looking at, so, or the Board of Adjustments. Thank you.
So just for process clarifying, are you seeking a similar format of a work session where this is just an overview and presentation from staff? Or are you seeking to be in a platform of public comment?
I would like to start with the staff, but I would like to dig down and find historical documents so that we can dig through those and assess what they mean in today's environment and in today's really just realities, not just the environment, but the realities, the realities that we're now max density when it comes to these smaller plots that are, once you run out of width, you're going to go up. And people are pushing it. There's a building that I don't want to get into right now that if I were to fly a drone up to it, I think it's maxed. And, I mean, that's just, it's been approved, it's coming up. It's a 4-story building. So I'm just doing simple math. I'm not a math guy, I know the mayor is. But 9-10 foot, you're getting.
You're talking about the whole-
Residential or commercial?
Residential.
Yeah, I know, because I
building.
stared at it,
Residential,
so I know what you're talking
4-story.
about.
Interesting.
It's pretty max, because and I know, without having to say it, but I know exactly which one you're talking about. And you look at the home just north of it, and I've got the backside view, so it literally looks like it's higher
I mean, it's.
than the home that's already as big. And I thought the same thing. Was it because of the base flood?
I think that's where that.
+1, +2, or how did it get so much? I mean, it
There's
looks
a
like an
height, though.
apartment building from my side.
I think that's
Yeah.
key. You just hit on something that is crucial in this discussion, is that BFA.
Yeah.
Because it's, I mean, I look at these things and I think, wow. But I know, it's permitted, it's got a design.
Yes.
Or is what you're asking for an
Clarity.
historical overview from staff of how height has been applied as it's currently written for, and maybe we provide several projects to show that interpretation and overlay into, separate from the CRD EA, which sounds like
It's
a
its own thing.
separate topic, because that's a zoning issue. Is that accurate?
So you're bifurcating it, and it's going to complement that. But yes, there would be some case studies to look at for the elevation, and certainly different timelines. I would like to look at, from its inception, a snapshot mid to current, just to get an idea, without killing the task. Again, every time we ask the city manager something, we're throwing more on her plate, and in turn on the staffs. But what I really want to do is have a thorough discussion with the commission, because ultimately it's going to be how we interpret it, right? The commission is going to make recommendations and decisions based on today's realities and today's challenges, which may not have existed, prior to this renaming of the CRD, which I'm just finding out now is something else. What was it again?
I'm pretty sure it's called Special Planning Area,
Special
SPA.
planning area, okay.
If you go back and look, one way to look at stuff too is if you go back into Municode, and you can look at the old comp plans.
Yeah, I will add a note.
So look into like the 2015 comp plan.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure the Historic Preservation Board has been talking about this, because I hear them talking about
Ad nauseum. They
Yeah.
discuss this ad nauseum, and they're frustrated with it. But I will say too that there's incongruencies with Pinellas County and the tax appraiser's office in terms of how we have this. So that's technically a big piece in this as well. Are we losing out on tax revenue, ad valorem and things like that? So there may be losses to the city that we haven't considered as well. So did that answer your question, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
And I apologize in advance. I know I'm throwing unexpected, but not, I believe, unnecessary work. I think in the long run, this is an investment on not only the community and the city, but on the staff, more importantly, because they're second guess and they're questioned about every decision that they make, and if it's going to involve a presentation, we rely on the person presenting that as our expert. So,
I'm just, I want to make sure I understand what our outcome is, because if we have to get to you before the Board of Adjustment, that's scheduled for January 28th, which means the only meeting I have to bring something to you is the first meeting in January, unless you want to schedule a special meeting or a special work session. And I just, from a process standpoint, if the commission were to give us direction to make some changes, those are not going to happen before 1/28. So I'm just trying to understand. We do have a specific case moving to the Board of Adjustment on the 28th.
Can we pull that, defer that, so that we're not rushing through this? Because
Kristen, can you help me?
I'm just, before we get there, I'm not clear on what you are asking. So are you asking for us to relook at the land development code and make changes to the zoning? Or are you wanting clarification on what we currently have and just a staff report? Okay, here's what we have, and here are the heights, here the density allowed, here's what's allowed in this district. Is that?
So the end state could involve changing it, correct?
Okay.
And that's, that's the tall pole and the tent. But that may be dissolved in a discussion. We may find that there is no need to do that, and here's why, and here's what the experts opine, and here's what's legally permissible, and that would diffuse that. But that could be one of the end states as we go back and we abolish the CRDEA.
The reason I asked that is twofold. One, the application is already in, so no changes we make before the application will impact, because they will be subject to whatever it was at the time that the application was submitted. And then the second part is the looming...
The what?
The looming Damocles sword that hangs over our head, that's called SB 180, right, which has prevented us from making other important changes. I agree with you in principle that this needs to be looked at. I just wonder if we even have the ability, if it's just a matter of providing clarity, if it's a matter of re-looking at it and making changes, unless we're making it less restrictive, it's going to be very difficult. But I'm not getting the sense that you're looking to make it less restrictive.
No, absolutely. I'm not looking to ease the height. I just want to make sure that we're uniformly applying it and that we're doing it with what's already in existence, which, like I said, just visibly, I'm not comfortable with the case that's going to come up, not exceeding the tallest building that we have in Paso Grill. There's been some graphics showing higher buildings. That is false narrative. I have disproven that by going out there and looking at it. And to the Senate Bill 180 piece, yes, it's a concern. I understand that we have handcuffs, that we can't do certain things that would be more restrictive when it comes to home rule. But, again, I'd like to have our city attorney look at these things too and see what kind of unintended consequences can come out of this. So I don't think it's a heavy lift, in terms of getting to changing the land development code just yet, but it's certainly a discussion that could lead to that. Now, I'm fine with letting this case go through and rolling the dice and seeing what happens, but I would like to prepare the board as best as they can to have something. Because right now, to Commissioner Rusnicki's point, I've watched probably close to a year and a half's worth of Historic Preservation Board discussions, and it comes up again and again and again, and they seem powerless to most of it is informational, I will tell you that. If you look at the meetings, a lot of stuff that comes across are their discussions, which could be controversial. At the end of the day, it's just a discussion, and then it goes to the staff, and then there's back and forth. And if I can help reduce any kind of back and forth and increase operational efficiency, then we've saved the city some money. That's billable hours. Every time your staff spends 10 hours, in this case I think 10 to 12 hours maybe, looking at moving to Mayor's Cottage, we're paying for that, and it's not free, because we're also taking resources and time away from things. But yeah, I mean, I'm being strategically neutral in terms of whether the LDC needs to be revamped or thrown out all with the bathwater. It could be a simple discussion where we agree that this is why it was created, this is how it's formed, even though certain things have gone away. Here's why we think it's strategically important to keep that.
Well, every 7 years, we're supposed to look at it and go through it anyway. So I do believe the last one was 2004 is when.
2004?
I mean, 2024, it was 17,
Yeah,
it went from
yeah.
17 to 2024, sorry about that.
Yeah, and I am familiar with that, but a lot can happen in
But
one.
no, exactly.
Yeah,
And that's, that's the max
Yes.
length. It can be shorter than that.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up, because that's an important thing for our constituents to look at and say, why are they looking at this now when it's not due? You know, a lot can happen in 1 year.
A lot has.
And a lot has, you know,
Yep.
planned and unplanned circumstances. So, and, you know, as I look at it from my piece of the pie, I do sympathize with the other districts in terms of the bigger challenges that are going to be coming in bigger discussions with height, to your point, and even historic designations. So, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take this much time from it.
Well, no, I
It's
will.
supposed to be a 3-minute introduction and then move on, but I do thank you all for your
Well, I'll
questions, because I think that they help the city manager kind of neck it down a little bit. So,
Well, I'll remind everybody, if anybody's still watching, is that this is the only time that we can talk amongst ourselves. We can't do it outside of this forum. So if there's stuff that we really need to discuss, this is the time to do it. So I don't mind taking a little extra time.
I do have one question, and Kristen, if I'm putting you on the spot and you'd prefer not to answer, I'm fine with you saying, I'm not prepared to answer that question. But are there differences in interpretation of height specifically where it's I mean, is that something that from the staff level is or you can see it becoming a problem where guidance from us on how things should be interpreted or potentially looking at the codes is helpful, or is this a problem that you don't think is a problem?
So I'm going to just kind of briefly go over it, and I really don't want to go too far into detail because I think that's going to be part of our deep dive, is that we have to look at what the grade is, and even in the CRDEA and Paso Grill, on the Gulf side down to Mary Pier, there is a significant grade change. And we have looked at that, and we went out as a group field trip too with the Historic Preservation Board and actually measured the different the heights of the buildings, the actual topo, so you could see the grade change from one side to the other. So you're going to see that. And then also, depending on what zones that they're in, as far as the LiDAR data and other information will also affect that. Because as we are pretty flat, we're not totally flat.
Yeah.
So, but
As
we'll
became
dive.
very clear when there was water on top of the Virginia.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
So that is part of that data as well. But we can kind of put it in a better format, a better fit and finish, and bring it back to you with regards to that. If I could, just for the Board of Adjustment application that the Commissioner was mentioning, that has nothing to do with height. That is strictly to do with the access and the curb cut. So that is not a consideration that the Board of Adjustment is going to be considering. It's just the curb cut for the property from Paso Grill Way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Not to speak for the commissioner, but I think the height issue is this application of equipment and uninhabitable space.
Right.
And it has been interpreted that that is not included in the height calculation, the measurement of the equipment. So the elevator shaft, the HVAC. But what's happening is we're seeing this trend that people are doing rooftop amenities, and the space is not inhabitable because the building code interprets inhabitable spaces, bedrooms, bathrooms, all the things that you would need to live. And so that is what we're facing now with this BFE and this shift after the hurricane and this whole approach to building. And we didn't have this, the interpretation's been consistent, but we didn't have this overwhelming move into recreational space on a roof that had been interpreted as allowable because of the extra height that's being approved by the equipment. So we can certainly include that in what the impacts of that interpretation may have on more residential areas if everybody decided all of a sudden they were going to have rooftop pools.
No.
So that you can see this is the trend we're
You bring up a good point.
and playing music, and so
Yep.
that's the
I
sort of.
think we've heard it on Historic Preservation Board, I think Board of Adjustment too. I think there was one not too long ago, it was, well, they're gonna have TVs up there, well then, yeah, and probably a little, a little refrigerator, and now, can you live up there? Well, yeah, you could, if, on a good night, you could sleep up there, right? So, but it is a problem, and with the demolitions of some of the homes, like, one that I think I'm visualizing that you've mentioned, Commissioner, it's happening like in the Don Cesar, anywhere you've seen demolishing of homes, what's coming in place of that is to the max wide, but to the max high. And because you could put some accessory up there, you technically could make an outdoor, because it's not in the code, right? You could have an outside space that you're technically living in, but it's not in the code.
Okay, I think I understand.
That has to be
the
addressed.
Presentation.
Yeah.
We'll put something together and do the best of our complete ability and be back to you by the first meeting of January.
Happy New Year.
Christmas little gift.
Thank you. No, thank you.
Not a hint, it's a mint.
I still have some.
Oh, you do?
Thank you. All right, we have Commissioner Robinson next with commission dates for 2026.
I just wanted to bring to your attention, I brought it to the city manager's attention. I have an obligation for the week of the 28th, July 28th and August 11th. I would love to do the meeting virtually, but I will be on the other coast. I will be on the West Coast. So I'm hoping you can indulge me, as I've indulged last year as well, for changing commission dates. If we could do a survey to see what other dates might work for the July 28th and the August 11th.
Can I just ask, because when we approved them, I have to look at my calendar. I had a conflict too, but we said, well, you just missed one. It's what I was told, I'm not, and you're saying two, so I don't saying miss two of them, but both of those dates you cannot do.
I have
either
a
one.
week-long event
Oh, so both of them will
over
be
in Irvine,
virtual.
California,
Mhm.
the week of July 11th and the week of August 11th. July 28th, sorry about that.
Because I know
July
that's close
28th.
to the dates that I'm out for 2 weeks, and possibly 3, so I know that's one of the ones that I would miss if I'm not able to do virtual.
Well, then maybe it would benefit everybody, and we could have 5 people here. It'd be possible to at least look.
So if you're okay, I'll work with the city clerk and we can send out an electronic poll.
Awesome.
And see how
That would be great.
dates line up and get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
Me too, and Becky, to make sure one of us can go. The only consideration I would add to that is that we are looking at budget season. And those, we have the finance and budget review committees before and after those, and just kind of very close proximity. So it just may limit our options, or it may require us to move more than just a commission meeting, which could just have a cascade effect at that point.
Understood. That's why I wanted to bring it to the attention.
Okay. Thank you. And lastly, we have a discussion item on permits.
So we've gone through a lot the last 13 months, more so than I think anybody ever could have imagined that we had to go through. You know, we weathered the storm. We processed 6,000 plus permits. And as we saw at the last commission meeting, it's our permit pipeline has kind of come down to just a trickle at this point. You know, we processed 6,000 plus permits. That's about 10 times our average for a normal year, which is a lot. And through it all, you know, our residents have been incredibly patient with us, the commission, with the building and permit department. There's been a lot of patience, a lot of grace. There has been some tension as well. And I think now that we're at the point that we've kind of cleared the biggest hurdles, I have to look at it and say it's the old adage, what got us here may not be what's going to get us where we need to be. And so I'm looking at it through the lens of the feedback from our residents, from local small businesses, from the contractors that we speak with. And I'm not sure that we're quite where we need to be in the permit department. Let's just say we're not where we need to be. I don't think it's where we all want to be. I think we all wish we were issuing permits within 5 minutes. And, you know, by some measures, we're doing okay. We're doing all right, but I don't think that okay and all right is quite adequate. And so I'm looking at it in terms of, you know, who do we want to be, right? We talk so much about, you know, how do we serve our community? How do we serve our residents? And I mean, I would love to be known as, you know, when contractors talk about St. Pete Beach, I would love for them to say, man, I love submitting permits in St. Pete Beach. It's like everybody else, the other 24 cities in Pinellas, but man, when I have to work in St. Pete Beach, what a joy. And I'd love for our residents to have that same feeling and say, look, you know, I have a feeling that when I go to City Hall, when I go to the building department, when I talk to the permit techs, or when I speak with the inspectors, they're just here to help and serve and provide for the community. And so I'm thinking through this and I'm thinking, okay, where are we? Where do we want to be? And how can we get there? And I think as part of that, you know, idea of, you know, how do we become the best that we can be? How can we be the best permit department, the best building department, the best community department in the county? You know, what would that look like? I think it starts with just this culture shift, right? Where all of us have this, you know, where our main driving force is how do we serve our community the best that we can? How do we provide great customer service to the applicants, whether they're residents, whether they're contractors or small businesses? How do we facilitate fast and accurate turnaround times, while at the same time, because this has been discussion for much of the last year or so, is how do we maintain compliance with Florida building codes and FEMA, right? The last thing anybody of us want is to lose our NFIP rating and then insurance is skyrocket. And so I would like to propose I have a couple of suggestions I would like to propose. And I would kind of want to break it down into a 90-day, here are some items that we could implement, you know, with feedback from city staff, with consensus from the commission. Here's some things that we could implement in the next 90 days, and then here's some things that we could implement before June 1st, which is the start of the next hurricane season. So that we were already much more prepared in 2025 for hurricane season than we've ever been before. And I want to make sure that 2026 we're even more prepared than we've ever been before. And so with that, I have just a list of about 10 items. If you wouldn't mind forwarding a copy to the city clerk. Kind of a quick 90-day action plan, and then a longer plan. And so the first thing that I would like to propose is, you know, we have this amazing resource that, thanks to Commissioner Robinson, you know, we have our volunteers for our city permits. So just at the last commission meeting, right before last commission meeting, we had this great thank you for them. We had cake, and they've been an amazing resource. 40 some odd individuals are our neighbors. And I think one thing that we could do is to further, and I know that they would be extremely happy to help us further. And I think the easiest way to do that is to just perform a quick exit interview with them. Maybe a list of 5 or 6 questions. What did you learn? What was the thing that stuck out the most to you? What is the area that, what worked well, what didn't work well? What did you hear from residents? What did you hear from contractors? What are some of the areas that, and I know several of them are going through the process themselves, whether they're rebuilding homes, whether they're going through the renovation process, and what an amazing resource that they have been. I think it's a resource that we can use a little bit more. The next thing I would like to look at is, and this one's more, maybe less concrete, but I think just our standards for communication. And I want people, when they speak with us, when they speak with the building department, and I'm not, I don't want you to hear me, I'm saying anyone in particular is doing this. But what happens oftentimes is when you're processing 6,000 things, you just trying to get through it. And sometimes you're here until 7 o'clock at night and it's midnight. I've gotten emails from Laura and from the city manager at 1 o'clock in the morning, knowing that they're still here working on it. I think now that we've cleared most of the bulk, maybe we can come back and take a little bit closer look at, how are we communicating with our individuals? I'm notorious for not even saying hi in my emails and just getting straight to the point. I'm not saying that's not the standard, right? And I think sometimes, if we can communicate a little bit more empathy in our tone, no, 20 some odd of our own employees lost homes during the hurricane, so they know what all of our residents are going through. And I think it just boils down to the old golden rule. Are we treating the people in the, when they apply for a permit, going through inspections, are we treating them the way that we would want to be treated, or are we treating them like a number? And I think that we can do more in that area. The other thing that I think this could be a huge improvement is same-day permits for routine, low-risk permits, right? So there are some things that many cities, for example, roofs, windows, doors, ACs, the kind of things that are not, not structural, they don't require engineering reports, that we oftentimes are able to, other cities are oftentimes able to issue same-day permits. So I'd like to look at, is there a list of items that we could do this with? What are those items? And how could we develop a process and a system for implementing that? This is something that's come up quite a bit, which is having a single point of responsibility. So what I've heard from some contractors and residents is, I spoke with so-and-so, they told me to do X, Y, Z. Then 3 weeks later, I spoke with somebody else, and they had different feedback. And I think much of that could probably be eliminated if we were able to assign one point person for each file. So a file comes in, gets assigned to Commissioner Maldonado, not that he's in the permit department, and then he takes that thing from cradle to grave, right? And then also as part of that, I think it'd be important to have a little bit more proactive outreach to the applicants, right? Rather than, if the permit gets kicked back for something, whether it's small or minor, whatever it is, we tell people, just go back and read the notes and then respond in the system and so on. I think one of the things that we could do better, as far as, especially on the customer service side, is when we see that the person hasn't responded in 3 or 4 days, just a quick phone call saying, hey, did you receive the feedback that we left on the file? Are you able to get us those documents, right? So much of that turn time could be, improved, I think, if we, and again, we were at a point not too long ago where the phones were ringing and we had, every the foyer was full. We're not there anymore. So now I think we are at the point where we can come back and say, look, here's some intentional outreach that we can do to the applicants. By having clear ownership, that also puts the responsibility in having one point person. And so when something happens, we can go back and say, all right, John, what's going on with this file? The other thing that, again, this is feedback that we've received, and the residents and contractors I spoke with, is sometimes there was a feeling, and this was, I don't think it was intentional by anyone, but the feeling was that you submit an application, it gets kicked back for something, and then you resubmit it and it gets kicked back for something different. And the question is, well, why didn't we know about both of those items the first time, never mind the third, fourth, fifth, and 10th time? And the reality is, and this is not an excuse, this is just explaining how the process works, and this is why we're looking at maybe reviewing the process and amending it, is that the fire department might look at it, you know, then planning looks at it, then somebody else looks at it, and before, or at least the way that it's often happened is, one group will provide feedback before the other group is ready. And then, yes, you got an approval from the fire department, Kelly said everything is cool, you're good to go. But then it comes back from planning that, oh, this encroaches over here, and actually, yes, your fire was fine, but this thing isn't fine. And so one of the things that we could do is kind of consolidate the review process to where we do not issue a review in an application or a determination application until all of departments have looked at it. So that we eliminate this loop of somebody removed, the one comment I get quite frequently in this issue is like, it feels like somebody moved the goalpost. That's one I've heard dozens and dozens of times. I think by consolidating this allows us to eliminate that, where we have one review, one time, one response, and then all of the issues are addressed at once. The other thing that I wanted to look at is, and this comes as a result of that staggering statistic that we have, that 90% of our permit applications are from owner applicants. So the owner submitting an application, they're their own GC. Now, I don't think that trend is going to continue into the future.
No.
At the same time, we still have 6,000 permits that are in the process somewhere. So those will require inspections. They will require additional touches. And so I would like to look at if there's a way to do expanded in-person support. We used to have a process where you could schedule an appointment to go to the building department, speak with the person responsible for the file. And so I think if we were able to go back to that, if we have the additional time and resources now, where we have the ability to offer more face-to-face, in-person assistance. And I also think, especially considering how many of those applicants are owner applicants who may have a job, or they're small businesses who are trying to run their business during the day, if there's an opportunity to have extended and evening hours, maybe 1 day a week, maybe 2 days a week, I'm not sure what will be reasonable, 7, 8 p.m., something along those lines. And then the last thing for the 90-day action plan is establishing, publishing, and adhering to a standard timetable, so that we can publish and say, okay, if you submit a permit, if it's one of these 24-hour and same-day permits, this is what you can expect here. If you have a permit, this is how many days we will respond in, right? If it comes back for review, one of the things that I've seen, I'm not saying I've seen it in St. Pete Beach, but it's happened in some cases where you respond to a request and then, it resets the 30-day clock. And then you have a second issue, and then it resets. So next thing you know, you've spent 90 days to resolve 2 or 3 issues and so one of the things I would look at is how can we fast-track resubmittals so that, especially if if it requires engineering and architect reviews, that's a different story. But if it's a matter of, you've got the wrong thing here or the wrong item over here, to be able to fast-track those resubmittals. For inspections, I think we're already doing very well with next-day inspections, as long as you meet the deadline. That still has some room for improvement, I think, though. Okay, a couple more. So this is for more long-term, and I'm not sure that we can actually implement any of these for June 1st, but rather, I think these are some items that will require a multi-month, maybe almost a year-long process, but I think we could get a lot of work done by June 1st. I get a lot of comments about the website being difficult to navigate. It's difficult to find stuff, and I've run into it. So I would like to see if there's a way for us to review and update the current website, what we have, do some cleanup, make sure the information is current, easy to understand, and it's consistent across the board. And the last two are two big ones. I've talked to some of our staff. I've worked in the permit portal myself on the resident side as a resident. I've spoken to residents, and I think the consensus is that the permit portal is not necessarily meeting the needs that we have. It's working, but it's not working well. And so I would love to be able to look at and see if there's a way for us, from the communication, from what I've heard from staff, it's not a fixable system. It's not one that we could, update and make it fit. And it may be time for us to have a completely new permit portal, which is why my recommendation is that we have an evaluation by the staff to kind of tell us, is this working, is it salvageable, or do we just need to go with a completely new system and have something that, works for 2026 rather than 2020. And as part of that same permit portal, and I've seen this, I've researched this topic a fair amount the last few weeks. There seem to be some resources that could help us speed up the entire permitting process by using an AI-assisted permit review process. So that means, for example, that you'd be able to submit, so you would train the AI model on, okay, this is the Florida Building Code, these are the St. Pete Beach city ordinances, and then you'd be able to submit an application, and then the AI tool would scrub the application, review the document, do an analysis on it, do a code compliance and check on it, and then issue flags that would go straight to the permit tech with, here's the application and here's all the things that we found there got flagged. And from what I've seen with these systems is the more you work with them, the better they get over time at identifying what those flags are. And so looking at, how do we provide good customer service, fast, accurate, complying with Florida laws? I think it might be worth looking at if Candace or whoever wants to do it, it's going to be Candace, right? Looking at if we can integrate an AI-assisted model into a permit portal, or if there is one that has that, to just kind of help speed up that process, so that the next time we have 50 permits that show up in one day, we're able to process them much quicker. So these are my thoughts and ideas on what we could do in the next 90 and up to June 1st. I'd love to hear your feedback, see what you think, which of these things could be implemented, or if you have other things that you think we could implement. And then I'd also love to hear from the city manager, on which of these items she thinks are realistic for us to be able to implement in the 90 to 6 month timeline. I think Commissioner Murad, you were first.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this up. I think that it's no secret that we're not where we all would like to be. And I think we all have goals for what the permit department will look like, and how that will function. And I think we've made great strides from where we were a few years ago. And we're not quite where we want to be. But the good news is that means there's lots of improvement to be done, right? So we can really impress people. And I think that, I've spent, the last 8 or 9 months going through the permit portal and, finding contractors and builders who have a number of permits in and just, cold calling them and saying, hey, what's your experience? What's working? What's not working? How's this going? And the mayor's correct. The comments that I've heard from people over and over is, I've had a 6-week-long email exchange back and forth with people, and that could have been solved in a 15-minute conversation if I could have talked to somebody on the phone, or better yet, met with them in person. And so I think that's probably the easiest and most significant thing that could be changed the quickest. I do also want to say that I don't think we have a people problem in the permit department or the building department at all. I think we have some process problems. And I think, I hear from residents and from contractors and from builders all the time that, like, gosh, the people there are so nice and they so clearly want to help me, but there are other struggles going on in the background that are keeping them from helping me. And I think people recognize that. And so the people we have are truly fantastic. And I think it's important to acknowledge that and to remember that we don't have a people problem by any stretch of the imagination. But I think we definitely have a process problem, and I think the city manager is aware of that, and I think community development is aware of that, and I think that's why you guys have had somebody in the building department working on some process analysis, right? I mean, that's already been happening, and so I think it would be fantastic if we could get a little bit of an update of where, you know, what's happening with that process analysis. Are there things that have already been identified by the person who's been tasked with how do we improve these processes? You know, do they already have a short list of easily implemented solutions that you know that could be brought on? And I think it would be very helpful for us to know about that, and I think it would be very helpful for the community at large to know that that's happening in the background. I think everybody is a lot more patient when they know that something is actually being done, even if it's not visible to them on their own building permit. And I think that that a couple of things that I think are, and I know it's hard, you know, any of us in our own business, you get caught in the weeds of doing what you do every day, right? And that becomes the job, and you kind of forget that there's, you know, the customer, the end user of your product out there that really is the whole reason that you're doing this for. And I think everybody needs to be very mindful of the fact that, you know, for staff, every time there's a couple week delay on somebody's permit, there's no impact, right? There's no impact to the people in the building other than I know they're all good people, and I know it makes them feel bad, but to the people in the outside of the building who are waiting for their demo permit, waiting for their building permit, waiting for the permit for their house to get lifted or their house to get built, that every delay is another month that they're paying a mortgage on a house they can't live in, another month paying rent on the place they are living in, another month paying insurance on the house that they can't live in, or the house that's already been torn down, because you still have to pay insurance on that if you have a mortgage on it. And so there's very real financial ramifications to our residents for every delay. And so I think the mayor has some great ideas here. I'd really like to hear from the business analyst about kind of where we're at in that process. In addition to the fast permits on some things, I would love to know if there are some things that we don't even need to be requiring people to get a permit for. You know, I'm pretty sure that there are a number of municipalities where you don't have to get a permit to build a fence. And so, you know, I think we could free up a lot of people's time if we could not be issuing permits for things that we absolutely don't have to issue permits for. So I would take that fast permits a step further to, is there anything we can just let people do without a permit? And then I think that one of the things on the list here is to have a clear and predictable timeline, and I think we have that with a 30-day review, but I sure would like to see that 30-day review be looked at as the absolute maximum amount of time that it could possibly take for the review, and not the amount of time that you have before you have to review a permit when it comes in. You know, so I think those would be some helpful things, but I really appreciate the mayor bringing this up. I think this is an important issue.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson?
I would agree that the staff, for the most part, is overwhelmingly helpful from what they can do, where their hands are not tied, as far as from an intake standpoint. I question whether we need more staff, because I don't understand what the holdup is. I get residents that tell me that they're not getting a response back for 30 days on simple things, and then they're waiting for just a response back, and then they get the response, and of course it's something that now they've got to go and pull other things that they didn't have to pull for another item that they did. So I don't know if 30 days is acceptable. I really question whether 30 days is, and if it means we need to speed that process up, do we need more staff or the OT? I'm not one to spend money, but if that's what helps the residents who actually pay the bills here, then that's what needs to get done. You know, having a solution for this is, I agree with the exit interviews. I think all the employees as well should be, you know, I'm sure they have ideas as to what could speed things up. As far as, I've mentioned this a couple times, using the volunteers that we had that were trained. If we need to use them, and I know most of them are willing to come back and work as an extension of a permit tech, of somebody in planning, of somebody, to be able to make that one-on-one conversation or you know, make that reach out to the applicant, then use them. I just don't think that our 30 days is just, that is not acceptable. And it's gone way too far. I like the idea of a liaison for an owner applicant liaison and a small business liaison. Maybe that will answer the questions, but I'm also finding that I find that not everybody is giving the same answer to people. So that's a clear problem. Where does that problem come from? Us up here can't necessarily solve that. All we can do is ask for it to get solved. And I admire any ideas that come to be able to push this forward. And I think 90 days, it should be probably pushed up. Some of these can be done quicker than 90 days. A lot of them. I think that's very, you know, a very graceful grace period for that. I think it needs to be done much quicker, and it's, you know, it's past due. It's well past due.
I think to what Commissioner Maldonado said earlier when he commented on two people reading the same thing and coming to two separate conclusions.
Yep.
I think by having a single point of contact, one person that's responsible from the file from beginning to end, I think that could eliminate a lot of that. Because you're not coming to me and getting one opinion, and they're coming to you and you're just like, oh, I'm reading this differently.
No, and I get that, but there obviously is a problem internally if we have two people giving two different answers. Right. It's an internal problem. Yeah. And that's something that needs to be looked at and to be addressed. Mm-hmm. I agree that that a single contact will solve that. As far as if they require one thing and this person doesn't require, you know, when you get this person, they're always going to require it. At least you get consistency. But overall, it needs to be consistent within the department.
I would agree with Commissioner Robinson on that because, I mean, I'm sure we've all received, sorry, I know you have your green, but I'm just following up on her comment was, we've gotten emails, and I know I'll forward them or talk to the city manager, and we've got some right now current that we're still waiting to get addressed, but for the same point that I'll get a resident say, well, I know my neighbor got the same permit, but why are they done, finalized, and I'm still stuck here? And it's the same identical thing, you know, so I would think that both, yes, have a single point of contact, but as long as the process is the same for everybody, right, or whatever is, why is that happening? You know, why are we getting mixed messages from, you know, whether it was the inspector who came for someone and said yay for so-and-so, but said no for the other, and they're identical. I mean, I have a bunch of emails and complaints from residents about that, you know, and I've forwarded that, you know, to the city manager, you know, how, you know, or just voids of time. You know, I know we have an issue with the docks over in Marina Bay, and they're kind of in this empty standstill, and all those people own these slips where they can't keep their boats, and they have them in storage since the hurricane, and they can't bring it back because they can't build their dock, and they're building their seawall, but it's not, I mean, there's just some big convoluted something going on.
I would agree with everything on here, and I would add not only conduct exit interviews, conduct employee interviews, find out where's this missing link, what is going on. I'd add volunteers to assist, and I would make that 30 days less. And again, like I said, I don't like to spend money, but if we need to do the OT with extended evening hours, or add more staff to add a liaison, I'm for that. Whatever we can do to assist to get this fixed. I will say that on the permit portal, when I think we signed off on a Band-Aid recently for, what was it, $40,000 or something? $39,000?
Yeah,
for
for an extension.
for-
Continue working on the current solve and, effectively try to make continued improvements where we can. I think last time I spoke with you all, I also talked about the fact that I think this is going to be our long-term solve.
Right.
And that we were going to need to look and go to market for another product. Love the idea of an interim, AI wrapper. There are a number of products out there, I think, that can facilitate and augment. But those are all things we can kind of bring to bear as part of this conversation.
Yeah, I just think it's time we look at these and seriously look at them. And this is our number one issue with our residents. And it's gotten better. We're better than other communities, whether residents and businesses want to realize that or not. We're in a better position and do a little better. But, our permit department was not well received before the storms, and it's certainly not now as well. So it is one area that definitely needs to get addressed. And I think the website cleanup and streamlining can start immediately. I mean, that I don't think that necessarily needs to wait till June 1.
I think we'll come back to the city manager after Commissioner Maldonado and to see what maybe once, I don't know if you've had enough time to look at the list, but just kind of look and see, okay, here's what we can do in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months. Commissioner Maldonado.
So let me start by saying that this is an excellent example of leadership and governance in action. I would encourage my fellow commissioners to look at processes and things where they feel that they can improve upon and present that at a commission so that we can talk about it out loud, and then, help the city manager succeed and excel in what it is that she's trying to accomplish. Just 2 comments on this. The first, extended and evening hours. Just keep in mind that would be a 2-person concept for safety. If you're going to do anything like that, you're doubling your cost. Not every customer that comes in here leaves happy, and I would hate to put somebody in a situation where we have to have somebody intervene. And my biggest concern is that in terms, go ahead.
On that one, what I kind of envision is starting maybe a pilot program with 1 day a week or 2 days a month, where we're open just a little beyond 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right, having 2 people there. Maybe we could do 2 permit techs and we can get 2 appointments going at the same time. I don't know.
Just something.
But yeah, it's initially just to see if there's demand there. If there is demand there, then we can look at it more. And if we find that we're doing it a couple times a month and no one shows up, then
yeah, and it could even be a volunteer. I don't know. There may be people that volunteer to chaperone, reduce the cost. The concept of cradle to grave, this is also a single point of failure. So I agree that it's important to have a primary person looking at this, but I would want an alternate in the event that that person, for whatever reason, could not continue to service the file, take leave, an emergency, something so that it doesn't get dropped. But this goes back to the premise of judgment, training, and expertise. People aren't doing things differently. It's just based on their organic experiences that they're going to view things. And some people are more sticklers. I've seen that. I can't fault someone that follows the letter of the law. And then there's people that are super gumby. They're flexible. They can work with people and provide that instant feedback. But no, I commend you for bringing this forward. I think that it's a great overdue thing that we've all struggled with. I think that, as you said, 90% of the owners are applicants, so they're the first ones that are talking to us. And we must be talking to the same people, because it's moving the goalpost. It's a reoccurring theme, and the city manager and I have talked about this ad nauseum. It's not directed against any one person. You know, I know and I feel in my heart that everyone is trying to do the right thing. It's just we look at it differently. And to your point, my neighbor across the street was required to elevate her AC unit 4 feet off the ground. I'm not gonna say what mine's at. I don't want somebody coming around my house. But, you know, it literally is just across the street neighbors asking why. And the only thing we can come up with is we look at it and we say it was a different person that viewed the file.
Correct.
So, but thank you for bringing this up. I wholeheartedly agree that we don't have to wait 90 days. A lot of this, I think the city manager can look at pretty quickly and tell us whether or not this is even happening or whether there's a way ahead for it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioner. First, I just want to thank you for acknowledging with compassion and empathy for the staff and how far they've come. But I agree with you, and staff agrees that there is room for improvement. Even when we think we've arrived as the best permit giver outer in the Pinellas County, sorry, I'm gonna get my words. You know, to me, there's still gonna be an opportunity for continuous improvement, because it's an organic process. Laws change, ordinances change, needs change. So thank you for that. I will say I don't think any of these on the surface are unreasonable. The staff, as Candace mentioned earlier, we've sort of been rolling up our sleeves, working on many of these issues, trying to integrate into the culture and the team and bringing others along with us. Some of these ideas are new, so we definitely appreciate that and appreciate the opportunity to talk to you as a group, because I do hear from you individually, but I don't often get this chance to hear it collectively. And this is really helpful for, I think, myself and my leadership team as we try to address the process. So I say all that with, I think the best step forward is that I think we add monthly updates. And so the first one, you know, a month from now is the January meeting. I think I could come and say, okay, we heard you, this is what we've been able to accomplish, not just from now, but also prior, as we have been working through process improvement, and then kind of take it through that reporting on a cadence so that you can see what we're doing and are we making improvements, and even continue your own spot checks, because that's helpful. You're hearing from people that maybe we don't hear from, and they may say things they're not willing to say to us. So we do appreciate that feedback. So we will continue to work on it, and thank you for the feedback.
So under the first part, the 90 days, is there anything here that you think is unreasonable in 90 days' time? And I'm not discounting it getting done quicker in some areas.
The only thing, because I don't have the expertise, is the same-day permit implementation.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one I may want to see what would tactically be needed to make that happen.
Yeah, I figure that would be the one that would take the most amount of time, just for legal review, to look and see what other cities are doing that are able to do same-day permits or 24 or 48-hour permits. You know, what categories we could do that. I do like Commissioner Marriott's idea. You know, are there things that we're requiring permits for that really no one's looking for a permit? Or we shouldn't be, or maybe it's just one extra step that we could eliminate.
It could just be a local code. We're constantly differentiating between, did you have a local code that required a more stringent review, or is it just the Florida Building Code? So that's something we'll look at.
Yeah.
As far as the June 1 implementation, there could be some money involved in that. So I've made myself a note to see for example, the website, I know we've been talking about this for a while, and I just need to see kind of what that project might look like. Cleanup's one thing, overhaul's a completely other thing. So I've got to kind of see what's needed. And then, as Candace had mentioned earlier, she's deep in already trying to get the parameters needed to evaluate what the needs would be for a new permitting system while we Band-Aid the one we're working in. And looking at her, do you think we could, by June, have a path forward, an RFP or a scope of work, or? Yeah, I think we can have a scope of work ready to go by then. I don't know, it would be very much further than that by June, unless we need some other priorities right now, but. Okay, so we can talk about that where we're at. Just wanted to remind the commission, we are in the middle of a finance implementation and a payroll implementation. So those were some of the not so sexy programs that we had to clean up. And so that's kind of where they've been putting their energy too, because those systems were failing.
For sure. Okay. Well, thank you all very much. Next, we have staff reports. City Clerk,
Nothing to report.
City Manager.
I do have a few things to report this evening. Bear with me. I wanted to give you all a brief update on an item of interest for the community, as we have been approached by Tradewinds and Country Thunder, who are co-sponsoring a potential event that they have applied for a permit. We have had one meeting with this organization since the original permit application came in, and did some brief overview on what requirements would be necessary. They, I understand they have submitted a permit to the Florida Fish and Wildlife, as well as the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, because the event currently is scheduled to occur May 8th through May 10th, which you all know is the beginning of turtle season, as well as it is the same time frame that our black skimmers come in for their season. Give me just 1 second. Just want to see what else is going on with that. We are also meeting with our local turtle trackers, as well as Bruce and Commissioner Robinson joined us as well today. We're talking about potential impacts and how and what support they would need to make this viable if it is. So I just wanted to let you know that we don't have a lot of the details yet. We're continuing to track this and stay in touch with Country Thunder, who is the event organizer. It is a pretty large event, expected to sell 12,000 tickets per day. And it is currently planned to be on the beach. So there's a lot of moving parts and pieces, but I just wanted to give you all an update on where we are at. At this point, no permits have been issued by the state or the city. So just wanted to let you all know that.
Do we have a ticket count from them? Because historically it says that's 40,000.
So their permit actually listed 10 to 12,000 tickets sold per day.
Okay.
Okay, I also wanted to give you an update. This is on the permit issue. So as you all know, we have quite a few residential structures being elevated right now. We have 5 businesses in the city right now doing these type of projects. We have 2 modern movers and Davy Shoring that use a different process than the other 3 have been using. We actually met with both of them today. They were having some challenges getting through our process. We had a very nice meeting, and as Commissioner Marriott mentioned, in about 15 minutes we solved it, and they are off on their way, and so anyone who's working with them should be experiencing some more expeditious finishing of their project. So I just wanted to let you know that we did have a meeting with them today, and I think they went well. If you hear differently, let me know. And that, to that point, we are trying to do more in person, even if Laura and myself, or Adam, the assistant city manager, and myself are coming in to just really help understand the issues and how to navigate them in a more expeditious way. So send them our way, and we're collectively meeting with all of, and mostly contractors on these complexes as a team. So I just wanted to let you know that. And then lastly, I just wanted to close with a little holiday note. As we enter the season, I did want to express my sincere appreciation for the spirit of resiliency, cooperation, and civic pride that continues to define St. Pete Beach. This year, we were fortunate to pass through hurricane season without a major storm making landfall on our shore. And while we never take such good fortune for granted, I am deeply grateful for the preparation and readiness demonstrated by our residents, local businesses, community volunteers, and city staff. It is through shared responsibility and a genuine regard for one another that we continue to protect the place we all call home. We also know that many community members are still recovering from last year's storm. And please know we are here to support you every step of the way. So please, I ask you, lean in, reach out. I hope everyone has a peaceful and enriching season with friends and family and good food and fun. So happy holidays.
City Attorney?
Nothing this evening. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Commissioner Maldonado?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank the Pinellas County Sheriffs for their response to an incident that took place in our district involving a vehicle, an evasive person, and a helicopter. So you can probably write a book on it. Maybe I will. We'll think about it.
An invasive helicopter, you said?
No. Evasive.
What?
Well, I did get calls about the
What
noise
happened?
from the helicopter. Evasive person.
Evasive person.
And helicopter intervention. So really just a great example of being there, taking care of things, you know, and a well-executed, quickly conducted arrest and apprehension. Secondly, yes, Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy New Year. You know, just honored and really just humbled to serve with you. And I thank you for the collaboration, the spirit of cooperation from, you know, not only city staff, but my fellow commissioners, and more importantly, the absolute input that I've gotten these last several months. You know, I feel like I'm a school principal sometimes, a priest at others, and then a judge and jury sometimes. So, but it is, you know, a great example today of what we can get done when we collaborate and cooperate with one another and work through the system to achieve meaningful results. So thank you and Happy New Year.
Sir. Commissioner Resnicki?
I just wanted to say thank you for all of you here. I know we're here always late, and we don't have to call. We won't have to call an extension, but to wish everyone, the staff that are present, the commission, the mayor, city attorney, city manager, the best holiday season, because this is definitely not. This is our last for 2025 that will be up here. So, and we'll be back together in 2026. And also to the community, because we are still in difficult times for a lot of residents. A lot of people in our city are not living in their homes, still, whether renting or living with other family members, because they're still waiting for permits and build-outs and or even financial need. And sometimes we forget there are a lot of people here who financially cannot rebuild their home. And we have to remember that. Not everybody can do a 4-level home like we're seeing. Some people are still struggling to just get their drywalls in. And so I say that so that residents who know about these situations, and I know several in the district, to reach out to them, let them know that within our district, I attend Vianney, St. John Vianney, and I'm sure maybe the other community churches do similar things, but we offer dinners for people who need. So always know that even within our city, those things are available. But again, the neighbors know themselves. So don't shy away from it. You know, it's not much to send someone a care package. some with families. So keep that in mind during these holidays. So happy holidays to everybody, and I'll see you in 2026.
Commissioner Robinson?
Just wanted to bring to everybody's attention, Three Palms Point Neighborhood Association will do its traditional Three Palms Point luminary display on Christmas Eve. This marks 53 years of lining the streets with luminaries. On Saturday, December 20th at 10 a.m., there will be assembling the luminary bags at 475 64th Avenue, and it's a great way to meet your neighbors in Three Palms Point and have some fun. Donuts, coffee, and hot chocolate will be served. And thanks again to Linda Macy on the corner of 64th and 2nd Palms Point. A shout out to her for letting them use the garage and driveway for preparations. And the neighborhood board is Mike Bomar, Deb Betchtal, and Matt and Heidi Card. And sorry, Deb, if I messed up your last name. Also did want to say that there's caroling tomorrow night, caroling at the library. I think that St. Pete High is doing that, the Pitchforks, so that's always fun. And happy holidays to everybody, residents, businesses, staff, and this commission.
Thank you. Commissioner Marriott?
Yeah, so I heard today that our small grocery store deli, Beach Meats, is making great progress. I got some very exciting pictures of the interior, and they're hoping to open sometime in January. So very soon, even though we won't have Publix back in January, we will have a small grocery store, so that's fantastic. I wanted to pass on my appreciation to city staff and the Corey Avenue Business Association for putting on some great events over the last few weeks for Christmas. There's been all kinds of great activity on Corey Avenue and Christmas movies at the Beach Theater, and I've heard fantastic things about it. I had a resident last night say they felt like they were living in a Hallmark movie the last couple of weeks with all the events in the city, so that's fantastic. And if you hear sirens on Saturday, it's the fire department driving Santa around, so don't get nervous that your house is burning down on Saturday. And I hope everyone has a very Merry Christmas. We'll see you next year.
Thank you, everyone. It's been a year. It's been challenging. It's been interesting. It's been good to meet some new people. Commissioner Maldonado, welcome. It's been a pleasure serving with you. It's been a pleasure serving with all of you. It's been a pleasure and an honor to serve this community. You are right. We've had some of the best, boat parade notwithstanding, but that's always, you know, if you think the boat parade is the first time this has been an issue, it's been an issue for
a long time.
Ever. And I'm not sure, aside from that, it's actually been an incredible holiday season, I think. The events that we had, I was at the Saturday and Sunday market just this past weekend, is all the way up to City Hall. It's the first time we've taken up so much space. It's twice the size it's ever been. You know, bonfire was extremely well attended. That was a lot of fun. What Mr. Hubbard said earlier during the audience comments about the events for the tree lighting at the park, that's the best I've ever seen. And those of you who are still concerned about the Christmas lights, Duke is working on them, right? But we'll get through it. But all that to say, it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure to be here and to serve. And this is our last commission for the year. So with that, have a Merry Christmas, an amazing New Year, and we'll see you in January. We are adjourned.